Chapter 801. Lightning fell like a waterfall and fire dragons descended. The violent heaven's wrath destroyed a large number of mountains and rivers around Purple Heart Manor, implicating countless cultivators. But Purple Heart Manor was safe and sound. Huo Guang and the others could not hide their worry. They took a step forward and looked at the entrance of the valley. Under the sea of lightning, a man and a woman were hugging each other passionately. Lightning bloomed in the surroundings and fire dragons roared in the surroundings. These two people did not seem to be in danger, but more like the danger was cheering for them. Looking at the two people hugging each other, Huo Guang, Feng Yinyang, Jin Dayu, and Kong Outyan's faces stiffened and they quickly retreated. How is this possible? How is this possible? Why didn't they strike him to death? Kong Outyan muttered to himself. Just as he finished speaking, Kong Outyan knew that he had let it slip again. He secretly looked at the others and saw that they were looking at him with cold eyes. I didn't say anything. Kong Outyan immediately shouted. In the valley. Zizi gradually woke up from her daze. She suddenly relaxed and pushed Yan Chuan away. No! Zizi screamed. Zizi knew that her curse was too terrifying. Miao is not here again. It's over. She pushed Yan Chuan away in panic, but Yan Chuan grabbed Zizi's hands and did not let her go too far. Rumble. The rolling sea of lightning fell. Zizi's heart was filled with panic. She was afraid that something would happen to Yan Chuan. However, when the lightning fell, it strangely disappeared. Although there was a large amount of lightning, it did not seem to be able to hurt Yan Chuan. Seeing that Yan Chuan was safe, Zizi secretly heaved a sigh of relief. I said, I'm lucky. You can't do anything to me. Don't worry. Yan Chuan said softly. Zizi bit her lips. She was still worried. Taking a deep breath, Yan Chuan said, come back with me and be my empress, okay? Empress? Zizi's expression was slightly dazed. It doesn't matter if it's our parents' order or our relationship. You have to go back with me. You are my wife. You can only follow me. Yan Chuan said firmly. I didn't say I wasn't going. Zizi pouted. Yan Chuan smiled and pulled Zizi into his arms again. Seeing that the lightning couldn't hurt Yan Chuan, Zizi didn't resist this time. East Divine Continent, Great Jin Dynasty, Yan Capital, above the Sea of Providence. Ong! The golden dragon of Providence roared again. The Sea of Providence clouds churned with monstrous waves. The golden dragon of destiny seemed to be infinitely happy. Yi Feng and Lu Gang walked out of the hall. How is this possible? I feel that Great Zhen has gained another member, and his position is even more honorable than ours. Lu Gang said in surprise. Lu Gang understood that they were the founding fathers of the country. It was impossible for anyone to surpass them after being conferred an official. He felt the same way a while ago. But today, someone had surpassed him. Lord Lu, don't worry. His Majesty won't confer titles randomly. Everything depends on hard work. Yi Feng said with a smile. But why do I feel that this newly conferred title is more honorable than ours? Lord Yi, you should be able to feel it. The Sea of Providence has a special arrangement for officials. But this feeling, the newly conferred title is more honorable than ours. Lu Gang said blankly. Lord Lu, you forgot about the 3 types of people. Yi Feng said with a smile. Oh. Empress, Crown Prince, Princess. Do you think their titles will fall behind? Yi Feng said with a smile. Ah. Ha 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 ha. Lu Gang laughed awkwardly. Crown Prince and Princess aren't realistic. Great Zhen should have a new empress. As for this empress, if I'm not wrong, you've seen her before. Yi Feng said with a smile. Chapter 802. Lu Gang's pupils constricted as he suddenly thought of someone. The emperor is an extraordinary person. Lu Gang exclaimed. ZZ was someone that most people did not dare to approach. Even Lu Gang felt apprehensive when he saw her. But Yan Chuan insisted on marrying her. No, the emperor is an immortal. Yi Feng corrected. Purple Heart Villa. ZZ, where's your golden mask? Yan Chuan asked curiously. Since you took it off, I'm not going to wear it anymore. In the past, no one could get within 2 zhang of me. Now that I've taken off the mask, I can get within 10 zhang. However, it's enough that you can get close to me. I don't need anyone else to get close to me. ZZ's eyes flashed with a hint of sweetness. Yan Chuan nodded. Why didn't the lightning hurt you? ZZ asked curiously. I can accept it. Yan Chuan said. Oh. ZZ nodded and did not ask any more questions. She just wanted to stay by Yan Chuan's side. Why did she need to ask so many questions? Something's not right. Yan Chuan raised his eyebrows. What's wrong? ZZ asked doubtfully. I might be about to break through. Yan Chuan's expression changed. Then, you should go into seclusion first. ZZ said worriedly. No need. Help me keep a lookout and don't let anyone in. Oh right, there's still Hu Guang and the others outside the valley. You should know them. Yan Chuan said. ZZ nodded. ZZ stepped out of the valley. Leaving Yan Chuan behind, he looked at the sky. In his Shinting acupoint, the thunderclouds in the sky sent an extremely strong signal. Heaven's wrath, heaven's wrath. Roar. Yan Chuan opened his mouth and rushed into the sky. A fierce suction force rushed into the sea of heavenly fire and lightning. Roar. Under the strong suction force, the fierce heavenly fire and lightning instantly poured into Yan Chuan's mouth. Like a whale swallowing the heavenly fire and lightning. Rumble. Countless amounts of energy poured into Yan Chuan, and countless amounts of lightning tempered Yan Chuan. However, the momentum of this tempering was too fierce. It was so ferocious that Yan Chuan's fleshly body almost couldn't bear it. However, the blue sky thundercloud continued to absorb the heavenly tribulation clouds. In fact, it was even absorbing the heavenly tribulation clouds. Rumble. The clouds of heaven's wrath pressed down harder and harder, and the surroundings of the Purple Heart Villa had long been razed to the ground. Countless cultivators fled in all directions. Oh my God! Heavenly punishment? What kind of heavenly punishment is this? Help! Countless Xiuzha fled in all directions in fear. Hu Guang, Feng Yinyang, Jin Dayu, and the others were also shocked. The cloud of heavenly wrath was slowly sinking. Correspondingly, the pressure was getting stronger and stronger, more and more terrifying. Let's go. I don't want to die yet. Yan Chuan, what did he do? Kong Outyan shouted in fear. Shut up. Tan Lang shouted. Under the pressure of the heavenly tribulation, none of us will be able to escape. We are dead for sure. I saw Yan Chuan hugging that god of calamity earlier. Now that the heavenly tribulation clouds is pressing down, he won't do that god of calamity, right? Oh my god, I don't want to die. Let me go. I don't want to die. Kong Outyan cried. Kong Outyan wanted to escape, but these people did not give him any chance. This was the first time Kong Outyan saw Yan Chuan, and he was horrified. He was so lustful that he did not care about his life. Everyone looked at the sky anxiously. However, Hu Guang's eyes suddenly lit up. This scene was so familiar. I will go and save the emperor. Jin Dayu said worriedly. No, Lord Jin, perhaps, nothing will happen. Hu Guang guessed. Nothing will happen. Jin Dayu said in disbelief. Just as everyone was in a stalemate, ZZ stepped out of the valley. Chapter 803. God of Plagues. Kong Outyen retreated in fear, but was blocked by Tan Lang. Empress, is His Majesty all right? Huo Guang asked worriedly. He's fine. Protect Yan Chuan. ZZ said. All right. Huo Guang nodded. I don't believe it. What if His Majesty is in danger? I want to see for myself. Jin Dayu said stubbornly. It would be too embarrassing if the emperor died right after joining De Zhen. Jin Dayu dashed forward. Feng Yinyang also ran to the entrance of the valley worriedly. At this moment, Kong Outyen only wanted to escape. He did not have the heart to investigate the situation. Tan Lang listened to Huo Guang. Huo Guang had already guessed what was going on, so he quickly looked around. Feng Yinyang and Jin Dayu dashed to the entrance of the valley. But the moment they rushed to the entrance of the valley, their worries disappeared and were replaced by a kind of dazed shock. Ah! The two of them looked into the valley in shock. Yan Chuan was surrounded by endless thunderbolts. It was as though there were chains of thunderbolts trapping Yan Chuan. But if one looked closely, they would realize that the lightning wasn't trapping Yan Chuan, but was escaping. Unfortunately, Yan Chuan opened his mouth and sucked them back. Swallowing lightning with his mouth was nothing. Jin Dayu and Feng Yinyang could still clearly see the rolling clouds of heaven's wrath pressing down. A corner of the heaven's wrath was directly aimed at Yan Chuan's mouth. Yan Chuan opened his mouth and roared. As lightning flashed in his eyes, the clouds of heaven's wrath were being swallowed by Yan Chuan. Swallowing the clouds of heaven's wrath all by himself. That scene was a heavy blow to the minds of the two. How was this a human? This was a peerless demon god. No, even a peerless demon god wouldn't be this exaggerated. Was he swallowing the wrath of heaven's wrath? Oh my god, was this for real? Feng Yinyang and Jin Dayu's worldview was turned upside down. This, if the two of you are Yan Chuan's subjects, you should scrupulously abide by your duties. Yan Chuan asked you to guard the surroundings and protect him. Don't just stand here all the time, ZZ said faintly. Ah. Oh. The two of them immediately regained their senses. Yan Chuan was fine, but the two of them were greatly shocked. He quickly left the mouth of the valley. They were guarding the surroundings to prevent any sneak attacks. After all, this scene was too shocking. When Jin Dayu first joined the Great Jin Academy, it could be said that he was half coaxed and half forced. After all, Jin Dayu always thought that Yan Chuan only had a stronger will and better luck than him, but his strength was no match for him. Of course, that was the truth. However, after seeing the scene just now, Jin Dayu no longer had such thoughts. What a joke, even the wrath of the heavens could be swallowed. Was this still considered weak? While Yan Chuan was swallowing the wrath of the heavens, news of what happened at Purple Heart Villa spread out rapidly. This was a sensitive place to begin with, and there were many spies of various forces around. Meng Hongying's main hall, Meng Hongying was conversing with Guyu Holy Sun. Reporting, Holy Lady. Holy Lady. A cultivator entered the hall. What's wrong? Meng Hongying asked curiously. Holy Lady, the Purple Heart Villa is facing the wrath of the heavens. The cultivator reported. Wrath of the heavens? Meng Hongying's face changed. Guyu Holy Sun, we'll talk later. Meng Hongying left Guyu Holy Sun behind and flew out of the main hall. Looking at Meng Hongying's departure, Guyu Holy Sun squinted his eyes. Wrath of the heavens? There's wrath of the heavens outside the god world? Could it be the great world-suppressing monument? No, I can't let go of any possibility. The Holy Lord sent me here because he trusts me. I can't screw this up. I have to be quick. Guyu Holy Sun narrowed his eyes and chased after Meng Hongying. On the other side, there was another main hall with the words 10th God Hall written on it. A cultivator ran over in a hurry. Chapter 804. The wrath of heaven descended upon Purple Heart Villa, and countless cultivators fled. Far away from the perimeter, the Xiuzhe who were safe turned back to look. The Purple Heart Villa had already been covered by the heavenly tribulation and was slowly sinking. No one knew what had happened, but they could feel their souls trembling from the vast power. High up in the sky, a storm was raging. No one dared to approach, and no one knew what had happened. Swish! A red light flashed and Meng Hongying quickly flew over with a worried look on her face. Greetings, Saintess. Countless cultivators bowed respectfully. However, Meng Hongying ignored him. Instead, he stared at the rolling clouds of heavenly tribulation in the distance. Lightning and heavenly fire surged towards the Purple Heart Villa. Have you seen Saint Z? Meng Hongying asked a cultivator beside her. No, no. That person immediately replied. Meng Hongying's face darkened. She took a deep breath and headed toward the Purple Heart Villa. Saintess, don't. The crowd of cultivators Jiaohu shouted. However, Meng Hongying ignored him. Who? Suddenly, a golden light appeared in front of Meng Hongying. Jin Dayu appeared in an instant, stirring up the air currents. Of course, compared to the might of the heavenly wrath, it was much weaker. Halt! Jin Dayu said in a deep voice. Who are you? Meng Hongying glared at him. He was filled with anger. Behind him, Meng Hongying's 4 servants quickly flew over. Meng Hongying lashed out with her whip as if she was about to attack. Who? Immediately, ZZ flew into the sky. ZZ, are you alright? Meng Hongying was overjoyed. I'm fine. ZZ nodded. Jin Dayu took a look and quickly flew downwards, disappearing into the forest in the blink of an eye. He continued to protect Yan Chuan. Tell them to guard the surroundings. Don't let anyone in. ZZ said to Meng Hongying. Did you hear that? Meng Hongying looked at the 4 of them. Yes. The 4 servants immediately replied. ZZ brought Meng Hongying to the entrance of the Purple Heart Mountain Villa. At the entrance of the valley, Greed, along with Kong Outyen, Huo Guang, and Feng Yinyang, had all disappeared. Clearly, they had gone to guard the surroundings to prevent any thieves from sneaking in. Saintess read embellishment, I've been kidnapped by Yan Chuan. Quick, save me. Kong Outyen exclaimed in surprise. Meng Hongying frowned as a trace of disgust flashed in her eyes. She ignored him and looked at ZZ. Yan Chuan is here. Meng Hongying's expression changed slightly. ZZ's face revealed a sweet smile. Yan Chuan is inside the valley? Meng Hongying asked in surprise. The wrath of heaven is here. He's dealing with it. ZZ said. ZZ didn't mention Yan Chuan's breakthrough. She didn't want to. Meng Hongying had a complicated look on her face when she saw the heavenly wrath surging toward the Purple Heart Manor. Meng Hongying had already guessed what was going on. Meng Hongying had seen this kind of heavenly punishment before. Last time in the Carefree City, ZZ was assassinated by a lower void realm expert. At that time, it was the punishment of the heavens for hurting ZZ. However, what about this time? What kind of grudge would cause such a magnificent scene to appear again? What did Yan Chuan do to you? Meng Hongying asked curiously. He hugged me. ZZ's eyes flashed with happiness. SSS. Meng Hongying finally understood what was going on with this magnificent heavenly punishment. Hug. Ordinary people wouldn't even dare to get close to ZZ. However, Yan Chuan hugged her. Moreover, Yan Chuan still dared to hug ZZ despite knowing that she was evil. If he hugged her, he would be punished by the heavens. However, Yan Chuan still hugged her. Chapter 805. For some reason, Meng Hongying was envious of Zi Yan. Congratulations. Meng Hongying exclaimed sincerely. I've agreed to be his empress. I'll go home with him immediately. ZZ smiled. Home? Isn't this your home? Meng Hongying asked curiously. ZZ shook her head gently and revealed a blissful smile that Meng Hongying couldn't understand. This is just a place to stay. Home is when I'm with Yan Chuan. A place to stay. Home. Meng Hongying was deeply touched. She looked at ZZ with deep envy. Rumble. More and more Heaven's Wrath flowed towards Purple Heart Villa. It took 6 hours for all the Heaven's Wrath to enter. The Heaven's Wrath had completely disappeared. At the same time, Feng Yinyang's voice came from outside the valley. Great mystifying fog array. Whoosh! Around the Purple Heart Villa, thick fog suddenly surged into the sky, covering the entire area, making it impossible for outsiders to see what was inside. However, they could see a faint beam of star intent descending from the sky. Star intent? Countless cultivators were curious. The star intent came from Yan Chuan. In Purple Heart Villa. Roar! Yan Chuan's skin cracked slightly and lightning arcs circled around him. He opened his mouth and swallowed the last bit of Heaven's Wrath Cloud. The Heaven's Wrath Cloud was too violent. It was so violent that his body couldn't withstand it. Yan Chuan had no choice but to use all his strength and connect with the star intent to protect himself. Rumble. The lightning arcs around him kept cracking his skin, but under the star intent, they kept shrinking. Yan Chuan sat down with his legs crossed. The azure thundercloud in his body quickly swallowed the Heaven's Wrath Cloud. The azure thundercloud expanded and contracted. It was digesting the Heaven's Wrath Cloud. Every time it expanded and contracted, a powerful force rushed into Yan Chuan's body. Boom! Tier 4 Divine State. Tier 5 Divine State. Tier 6 Divine State. Tier 7 Divine State. Tier 8 Divine State. Yan Chuan's cultivation skyrocketed once more. With a speed that outsiders could not understand at all, he directly rushed to the 8th level of the Divine Realm before stopping. All the thunder and lightning around him had been absorbed by the blue sky thundercloud. Gulyalu. The thunderclouds in the blue sky churned. Gradually, it returned to its original state. It just looked a lot more exquisite. Yan Chuan opened his eyes and dispersed the will of the stars. The 3rd level of the heaven-devouring Tao scripture. Yan Chuan asked doubtfully. It doesn't seem to be any different. Yan Chuan looked ahead, and his expression suddenly became serious. Just like before, he shot a heavenly thunder at a small hill in front of him. Boom! A clap of thunder sounded. But there was no lightning. A gentle breeze blew past, as if nothing had happened. Huh? Yan Chuan revealed a trace of surprise. What's going on? The 1st level of the heaven-devouring Tao scripture attracted heavenly tribulation and heavenly lightning. At the 2nd level, it was the heavenly shepherd tribulation. But at the 3rd level, there was no more tribulation. Only one clap of thunder. Why was it that the more he trained, the weaker he became? Even the lightning was gone. Just as Yan Chuan was puzzled, a strange change suddenly happened on the small hill. The original grass grew rapidly, and in the blink of an eye, it was as tall as a person. On the small hill, a small tree that was as thick as an arm suddenly grew strangely. It grew taller and taller, thicker and thicker arms, thighs, and waist. The plants grew crazily, inexplicably crazily. Yan Chuan's eyelids twitched. This is... Yan Chuan frowned deeply, thinking about why. After a while, Yan Chuan's eyes suddenly lit up. Chapter 806. I understand now. I understand now. Lightning doesn't just represent destruction. I misunderstood. What lay represents should be life. In winter, all living things lay dormant, only waiting for the spring thunder to sound to command the world, and all living things would awaken. Spring thunder, all things grow. This is the first thunderbolt every year. Yan Chuan's eyes flashed with surprise. Lightning and thunderstorms are only the most superficial manifestations of lightning. Is the heaven-devouring Tao scripture helping me understand the essence and origin of lightning? This was only the third stage, spring lightning. Just what kind of cultivation technique is this heaven-devouring Tao scripture? Yan Chuan was incomparably shocked in his heart. Heaven mender. Dugu Butian once said that I was also a heaven mender. Could it be that he's talking about the heaven-devouring Tao scripture? Yan Chuan's eyes suddenly focused. But the more he thought about it, the more likely it seemed. He knew that the heaven-devouring Tao scripture was far beyond what he had come into contact with in his previous life. Suppressing the shock in his heart, Yan Chuan narrowed his eyes. Spring lightning. All things are born. He stretched out his left hand, revealing a seed birthmark on his left wrist. Poison ivy. Before I died in my previous life, I used the life-stealing poison, hoping to reincarnate with all the treasures from my previous life. Inside the sky-burying coffin, there were many treasures buried with me, but only you reincarnated with me. It can be seen that your spirituality is much greater than the other treasures. After sleeping for so many years, we will use the spring lightning to awaken you. Yan Chuan said with a serious look in his eyes. With a slight pressure, the birthmark slowly floated out of Yan Chuan's arm. Spring thunder, all things grow. Facing the germinating seed, Yan Chuan once again cast spring thunder. Boom! When the spring thunder struck, the seed suddenly trembled violently. Boom! A large number of vines shot out from the seed like tentacles, quickly emerging and growing. Chi! The two vines instantly pierced into the ground. Poison ivy's body rapidly grew. At this moment, countless vegetation in the valley began to rapidly wither. The large trees and grass that had just grown rapidly also rapidly withered, as if their lives had been sucked out by the vine. Ka 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 ka. The earth was turning into sand, and the essence of the earth was being extracted by the vines. Bang! Bang! In the valley, more and more vines emerged from the ground. In the blink of an eye, tens of thousands of vines covered the entire valley. Moreover, they were getting thicker and more numerous. The desertified land spread out in all directions, extending out of the valley. In the distance, the forests withered and the earth turned into sand. What's going on? Meng Hongying exclaimed. Everyone quickly floated up. With Feng Yinyang's formation covering them, the outside world couldn't see what was happening inside. After a long while, the expansion of the desertified land finally stopped. In the valley, countless vines covered the sky, wrapping Yan Chuan within. In the center of the sea of vines, a monster appeared in front of Yan Chuan. It was a humanoid monster, but its body was made of plant roots. Its arms and legs were made of vines, and there were vines on its head. It controlled the sea of vines. Above its head was a pair of dark eyes. He seemed to be at a loss. It had some spirituality, but it lacked intelligence. Poison ivy, you have finally recovered the strength of your previous life. Yan Chuan said excitedly. The humanoid poison ivy quickly wrapped around Yan Chuan and rubbed against Yan Chuan, as though he was trying to curry favor with his master. No, you have evolved more than in your previous life. Don't move. There are a few words on your chest this time. Yan Chuan immediately looked at Poison Ivy's chest in surprise. In front of Poison Ivy's chest, there was a line of words that seemed to have been formed by nature. Unparalleled divine weapon, Vine Demon, 7th. Yan Chuan read the words on Poison Ivy's chest. Chapter 807. Outside Purple Heart Villa. Guyu Holy Sun stood among the crowd, frowning as he looked at the foggy Purple Heart Villa in the distance. Guyu Holy Sun arrived quickly. Before Meng Hongying arrived, Guyu Holy Sun had already hidden among the crowd. He saw some of it, but could not be sure that it was the great world-suppressing monument. Guyu Holy Sun watched quietly as the crowd discussed. In Purple Heart Villa, countless vines retracted back into the humanoid vine demon's body. Vine demon of the peerless divine weapon. 7th. Yan Chuan looked at the vine demon in confusion. Peerless divine weapon. It seems that you were created by a powerful immortal. Peerless divine weapon. You're 7th. Are there more? Yan Chuan frowned in surprise. Yeah. The humanoid vine demon shrunk rapidly and turned into a ginseng. It circled Yan Chuan for a while and finally rubbed against Yan Chuan's arm. No matter how you came to be, since you're already mine, Yan Chuan, you're mine. Vine Demon. Since you're called Vine Demon, I'll call you Vine Demon from now on. Yan Chuan nodded in satisfaction. Yeah. The Vine Demon cried out happily and shrunk again. It went into Yan Chuan's left wrist and formed a root pattern. Peerless divine weapon. Yan Chuan was delighted. Not only was he not injured by the heavenly punishment, but his cultivation had also increased to tier 8 of the divine realm. The heaven-devouring Tao scripture had also increased to tier 3. The vine demon had also evolved to the state of his previous life. Yan Chuan was in a good mood. He waved his sleeves and walked out of the valley. The valley had completely turned into sand, but Yan Chuan did not care. He saw ZZ and Meng Hongying as soon as he walked out of the valley. ZZ's eyes flashed with worry while Meng Hongying's eyes flashed with a complicated look. Saintess Hongying. We meet again. Yan Chuan smiled. Humph. Meng Hongying snorted coldly. Apparently, she still couldn't let go of Yan Chuan's sincerity that day at the hot spring. Or perhaps, she still didn't treat him nicely because of her modesty. Are you done? ZZ asked worriedly. Everything is fine. Yan Chuan nodded. At this time, Jin Dayu, Feng Yinyang, and Huo Guang also returned. Jin Dayu's cultivation was 2 realms higher than Yan Chuan's. Naturally, he could tell that Yan Chuan's cultivation was at the 8th tier of the God realm. Jin Dayu's jaw dropped. Was this a joke? His cultivation was growing too fast. ZZ, it's time for us to leave. Yan Chuan said. Yes. ZZ nodded. He's leaving just like that. Meng Hongying suddenly felt a sense of melancholy. I'm going home. ZZ smiled. Should I inform grandfather? Meng Hongying said all of a sudden. There's no need. I've been here for more than 30 years and I've never seen him. It doesn't matter if I don't see him now. ZZ shook her head. All right. Meng Hongying nodded. Yan Chuan looked at Kong Outyen. Outyen, Holy Son, regardless of the grudges between our parents, you and I are connected by blood. Once we're out of the Archaean sacred grounds, we'll let you go immediately. Yan Chuan said solemnly. Ah. Good, good. Oh right, I wish you two a long, long life. Kong Outyen said excitedly. Yan Chuan waved at Feng Yinyang. Feng Yinyang nodded and a white light shot up into the sky. Whoosh! The white light shot up into the sky as if it was a signal. The fog around them slowly dispersed. As the fog dispersed, the deserted ground was exposed. What's going on? Purple Heart Villa has turned into a desert. Ah, that's Holy Daughter Z. The man beside her is standing so close to her. Does he want to die? Chapter 808. Countless cultivators were in a heated discussion. Guyu Holy Sun squinted his eyes in the distant crowd. Yan Chuan. Guyu Holy Sun's face darkened slightly. Guyu Holy Sun had suffered a lot in the hands of Yan Chuan. He looked at Yan Chuan gloomily with exceptionally cold eyes. Just when many people were surprised, a flying boat suddenly flew over from afar and landed near Yan Chuan. Saintess Hengying, farewell. Yan Chuan led the crowd to bid farewell. Meng Hengying did not know why, but she still nodded her head calmly. Want to leave? Suddenly, a furious roar exploded in the void. Father, father, I'm here. Kong Outyan shouted excitedly. Whoosh, 10 figures abruptly appeared in the sky, and 9 of them were precisely the 9 void stage experts that had followed Yan Chuan for a few months, whereas the one in the lead wore a black robe, had a fair face, and his eyes emitted a faint light. Kong Xianxue. Yan Chuan narrowed his eyes. Last time, it was the merit Dharma Laksana. This time, it was his real body. If it was before, even if Kong Outyan was in his hands, Yan Chuan would be slightly worried. But now, with the resurrection of the Vine Demon, Yan Chuan finally had something to rely on. Greetings, Blooming Water Palace Master. Shouts came from all directions. Kong Xianxue looked coldly at the crowd in front of the flying boat. You still dare to come back? Kong Xianxue said coldly. I didn't expect that Palace Master Kong would come out to see me off while refining treasures in seclusion. Yan Chuan said with a smile. See you off. Ha ha ha, leave your imperial seal and let my son go. Seeing that you are Kong Susu's son, I'll spare your life. Get out of the holy ground of the archaic sect. Kong Xianxue shouted coldly. Ha ha ha, my imperial seal. Yan Chuan's eyes turned cold. Everyone looked at Yan Chuan's attitude. If I want to leave, no one can stop me. If you want my imperial seal, come to Dezhen. Yan Chuan said coldly. Huh. Kong Xianxue narrowed his eyes and released a powerful aura towards the crowd. Jin Dayu took a step forward, and a ferocious aura gushed forth. But in the end, his cultivation base was weaker than Kong Xuanxue's, and he couldn't gain the upper hand in terms of aura. Blooming Water Palace Master, why are you doing this? Meng Hengying suddenly stepped forward and shouted. Hengying, he is an outsider who kidnapped the Holy Sun. Why are you defending him? Kong Xianxue retorted coldly. They're just worried that the Blooming Water Hall Master isn't willing to let go. I believe in Yan Chuan's character. He said that he would release Proud Heaven's Holy Sun as soon as it is safe. Meng Hengying said. But, I don't believe it. Kong Xianxue shook his head. If you don't believe it, I can go with them. After we leave the Archaean sect, I will bring Proud Heaven's Holy Sun back. What do you think? Meng Hengying said with a frown. I don't want to trouble you with my business. Kong Xianxue refused to give up. You. Meng Hengying's face darkened. Yan Chuan looked at Kong Xianxue and said with a faint smile, Kong Xianxue, Level 1 Upper Void Stage. You just reached the Upper Void Stage not long ago, right? Huh. Kong Xianxue narrowed his eyes. ZZ, let's go. Yan Chuan said with a smile. Go. You can't go. Kong Xuanxue's face darkened. His body swayed, and he instantly grabbed at Yan Chuan. Boom. In the desert, a huge rattan as thick as a water bucket suddenly shot up into the sky. It was like a dragon, and it was swung at Kong Xianxue. Ha! Boom. Under the huge impact, a storm was set off, blowing the surrounding sandstorm into the sky. Kong Xianxue paused. His eyes flashed with surprise. Chapter 809. Kong Xianxue was not the only one. Almost everyone who knew Yan Chuan was shocked. The vines retreated back into the desert. No one knew where the vines came from, but they all knew that Yan Chuan had stopped Kong Xianxue. The ancient moon Holy Sun gaped at this scene in shock. Jin Dayu looked at Yan Chuan with admiration. At this moment, Jin Dayu no longer had any doubts about Yan Chuan's strength. How is that possible? Kong Xianxue was in disbelief. Father, don't worry. I will be back soon. Kong Outyen shouted. Although Kong Outyen was a lawless person, he still had a strong father-son relationship with his father. Did Kong Outyen notice that his father had not gained any advantage from the previous attack? What if his father was injured? No, I must save you. Kong Xianxue shook his head and said. Yan Chuan looked at Kong Xianxue and said with a smile, Tan Lang, let Kong Outyen go. Ah! Tan Lang was stunned. Everyone looked at Yan Chuan in confusion. Let Kong Outyen go. However, when they thought of the whip, they calmed down. Yes. Tan Lang immediately let Kong Outyen go. Kong Outyen felt quite shocked and flew away from Yan Chuan in confusion. Fa. Father. I am free. Kong Outyen said excitedly. Kong Xianxue looked at Yan Chuan in confusion. Yan Chuan said indifferently, it's fine if I didn't know about Kong Outyen's bloodline, but since I know that Kong Outyen is related to me by blood, I, Yan Chuan, have no reason to use my relative as a hostage. If my son doesn't betray me, I won't betray him. If my son doesn't betray me, I will not betray him. Kong Outyen looked at Yan Chuan with a complicated expression. Did Yan Chuan mean that if you didn't do anything to me, I wouldn't do anything to you because we are relatives? Kong Outyen hated Yan Chuan, but at this moment, he had mixed feelings. ZZ, let's go. Yan Chuan said to ZZ. Yes. ZZ nodded. Don't go. Kong Xianxue shouted. What? You still haven't given up on my imperial seal? Yan Chuan said in a deep voice. Kong Xuanxue's expression was complicated. Finally, he said in a low voice, since you let my son go, as his uncle, I don't want your imperial seal. You can go, but she's not allowed to leave. Kong Xianxue pointed at ZZ coldly. ZZ. Not allowed to leave. ZZ's eyes darkened. Yan Chuan stood in front of ZZ, his face cold. Blooming Water Hall Master, Saint Z was conferred by my grandfather. You can't control her. Meng Hongying shouted again. Father, what are you doing? Let them go. Kong Outyen shouted in confusion. Father is doing this for your own good. Kong Xianxue frowned. Ah. For my own good? I don't want to. Father, she and Yan Chuan are husband and wife. Why do you want to keep her? Kong Outyen suddenly shouted. Husband and wife? Yan Chuan doesn't deserve her. Her husband can only be you. Kong Xianxue said in a deep voice. I don't want to. I don't want to be a plague. Father, I don't want to. Kong Outyen exclaimed. The surrounding people. Was there an internal conflict between the father and son? Slap. Kong Xianxue slapped Kong Outyen's face. After the slap, Kong Xianxue regretted it. It was also the first time that Kong Outyen was slapped by his father. He covered his mouth, his eyes filled with disbelief and tears gushed out. Father, you hit me. Sob, sob, mother, father hit me. Kong Outyen cried. The surrounding cultivators were speechless. Kong Outyen's temperament was too exaggerated. Now, he was crying for his dead mother. Kong Xianxue persuaded in a low voice, Outyen, how could I harm you? Do you know what ZZ's fate is? In order to give birth to this fate, I've done many things to make ZZ's parents marry each other. It's all for you, for you. Kong Xianxue controlled his voice so that others couldn't hear him. They all thought that Kong Xianxue was comforting his son. With such a father, many cultivators were envious. For me. Kong Outyen wiped his tears and asked in confusion. That's right. You also have a special physique. When I found out about your physique, I spent a lot of effort to find the fate of ZZ's parents. You must get her. My son will become the pride of the Kong family. Those old guys will support Kong Mo Ku. Emperor Mo Ku. Humph. My son's future achievements will not be inferior to his. Kong Xianxue comforted in a low voice. Chapter 8:10. While Kong Xianxue was persuading his son, Yan Chuan ordered Zizi, Huo Guang, and the rest to board the airship. Kong Xianxue glanced at the airship and said angrily, "I said, no one is allowed to leave." Whoosh! A powerful aura spread out and blocked the airship. Yan Chuan walked behind Kong Xianxue and said coldly, "Hall Master Kong, are you suppressing some kind of treasure?" Kong Xuanxue's face darkened. "Your attack just now was not at the level of an upper void realm cultivator. You can't stop us if you don't give up on suppressing the treasure. ZZ is my wife. No one can stop me if I want to take her away." Yan Chuan said. "Ridiculous. You think you can stop me just because you have a pseudo-immortal weapon? So what if it's a pseudo-immortal weapon? You can't control it." Kong Xianxue said coldly. "You can give it a try." Yan Chuan's eyes were cold as he refused to back down. "Attack!" Kong Xianxue shouted at the 9 middle void realm cultivators. As he spoke, Kong Xianxue slapped out with his palm. A gigantic black palm print pressed down on Yan Chuan. The sea of sand seemed to have exploded. A dragon-shaped giant vine rushed out from the sea of sand and swung at the black handprint. Boom! The giant vine smashed the giant handprint and slashed at Kong Xianxue. Kong Xianxue narrowed his eyes and reached out his hand to grab the sky. Boom! A huge handprint caught the dragon-shaped giant vine. Kong Xianxue restrained the giant vine in an instant. He clenched his fist and the giant vine was suddenly deformed. He was proud of himself. Suddenly, the sea of sand exploded again. 3 dragon-shaped giant vines rushed out from the sea of sand and swung at Kong Xianxue. "There are more." Kong Xuanxue's face changed. 3 giant vines swung at Kong Xianxue. Yan Chuan also had a giant vine under his feet. Yan Chuan floated up slowly. The 9 middle void realm cultivators rushed at the airship. "Let's see who dares to come." ZZ suddenly took a step forward, a trace of gloominess flashing in her eyes. The 9 middle void stage experts' complexions changed, and their bodies came to a halt. They were well aware of how terrifying ZZ was. One of the middle void stage cultivators had even personally experienced it. That was a middle void stage cultivator. After he had contradicted ZZ, he had been unlucky for more than a month. Even his loving wife had eloped with a mortal. It was a great humiliation and an eternal nightmare. Now that ZZ had taken a step forward, the 9 intermediate void stage experts didn't dare to take a step forward. This Saint Lady ZZ was too strange. Boom! On the other side, the 3 vines collided with Kong Xianxue. Kong Xianxue struck out 3 palms and blocked the 3 giant vines. However, Kong Xuanxue's step of capturing Yan Chuan was stopped instantly. "Hall Master Kong, take out the treasure that you're suppressing. Otherwise, you won't be able to stop me today. I can see that at least 70% of your strength is suppressing that treasure," Yan Chuan said in a deep voice. Kong Xianxue looked coldly at Yan Chuan and then at ZZ. His eyes were filled with uncertainty. "That's right. If you don't take it out, I can't do anything to you. If you take it out, I can only use it once. In that case, I'll take out ZZ's birth chart," Kong Xianxue said coldly. "What did you say?" Yan Chuan's eyes turned cold. Everyone only had one birth chart. If one's birth chart was taken out, he would definitely die. I'm the one who brought ZZ into this world. Without me, her parents wouldn't have gotten married. Her birth chart is mine," Kong Xianxue said coldly. Chapter 8:11. Meng Hongying's expression changed. Hall Master Kong, what did you say? You're the one who facilitated the marriage of Zizi's parents. They're both members of the Meng family. The marriage of a brother and sister is intolerable in the secular world. Grandfather is under a lot of pressure because of this. So, you're the one who facilitated it. Humph. Kong Xuanshui's eyes turned cold. My grandfather won't let you off for meddling in the affairs of the Meng family. Gui Shenhao. It's useless even if you're the Gui Shenhao master. Meng Hongying rebuked angrily. Do you think I care? Kong Xianxue said coldly. Meng Hongying's eyelids twitched. She saw madness in Kong Xuanshui's eyes. Kong Xianxue was willing to give up the position of Gui Shenhao master for Zizi's birth chart. Kong Xianxue stared at Yan Chuan. Since you want to see my full strength, then go ahead. That treasure is really good to use against you. None of you can leave. Kong Xianxue said coldly. Kong Xianxue reached out and took out a black treasure from his sleeve. The treasure grew bigger and bigger. It was surrounded by black water. Kong Xianxue kept injecting black energy into the treasure to suppress it. Before the treasure appeared, Yan Chuan could already feel a strong poisonous aura. Rumble. The black water slowly retreated. The poisonous aura swept in all directions. Countless cultivators were suppressed to the point that they couldn't breathe. The poisonous aura was even more terrifying than the divine punishment from before. Yan Chuan's eyes turned serious. Zizi stood beside Yan Chuan worriedly. Yan Chuan immediately shielded Zizi behind him. The desert below Yan Chuan's feet moved. More and more giant vines lurked out from below. Yan Chuan was waiting for the right moment. What a powerful poisonous aura! Jin Dayu said in shock. The black water slowly retreated, revealing a huge stone tablet. There were 4 words on it: Great Boundary Suppressing Steel. Great Boundary Suppressing Steel. Meng Hongying exclaimed. Kong Xianxue said coldly, that's right, the Great Stabilizing Boundary Monument. I took it for Zizi's fate. It's a powerful treasure. I haven't been able to refine it for a few years, but it's the only thing that can protect Zizi's fate. It's mine, nobody can touch it. Feel the Great Suppressing World Steel. Kong Xianxue sneered. The huge stone tablet fell from the sky and pressed down. Boom! The void wrinkled, as if a hurricane was pressing down. The great world-suppressing steel stirred up a boundless sandstorm. The Great Heavenly Seal. Yan Chuan's face sank, and the Imperial Seal soared into the sky. Hong! The Great Heavenly Seal and Great World-suppressing steel collided loudly. A gust of wind suddenly blew in all directions. Although the Great Heavenly Seal's materials were strong, it was a pity that Yan Chuan's strength was ultimately too weak. Ka ka ka. The Great Heavenly Imperial Seal was slowly being pressed down. Boom! 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 In the desert, 9 huge vines suddenly shot up into the sky and blocked the Great Heavenly Seal. Unfortunately, the Great World-suppressing steel was too powerful. The Great Heavenly Seal was still being pressed down slowly. More importantly, there was a poisonous aura that was directed at everyone. For a moment, Meng Hongying, Jin Dayu, and the others found it difficult to move. As the Great World-suppressing steel sank, the suppression around them increased by 10%. What's wrong? Meng Hongying was shocked. The Great World-suppressing steel is activated by me, an upper void stage martial artist. You won't be able to break free. Kong Xuanshui's eyes flashed maliciously. Rise! Yan Chuan shouted angrily. Chapter 8:12. Boom! 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 Suddenly, 100 huge vines shot out of the desert, heading straight for the Great Heavenly Seal. The Great Heavenly Seal's descent stopped abruptly. Boom! The great heavenly seal was no longer sinking. Eh. Kong Xuanshui's face darkened. You have a lot of treasures. It's a pity that you don't deserve to have them. Kong Xuanshui's eyes flashed with greed. Be it the great heavenly seal or the giant vines, Kong Xianshui could tell that they were extraordinary. Otherwise, how could they stop the great world-suppressing monument? Just as Kong Xianshui was about to strike again, "How dare you, Kong Xianshui!" Someone shouted from afar. Kong Xianshui turned around. It was Guyu Holy Sun. He held a scroll in his hand and looked at Kong Xianshui with a gloomy face. Guyu Holy Sun. Kong Xuanshui's face changed. How dare you, Kong Xianshui! The great revelation Saint Lord placed the great world's suppressing monument. How dare you touch it! Guyu Holy Sun shouted. Kong Xuanshui's face changed. How is this possible? How can it be so fast? How does Jingming know about it? Kong Xianshui panicked. This is the decree of the great Saint Lord. Kong Xianshui, hand over the great world-suppressing monument and surrender. Guyu Holy Sun shouted. Guyu Holy Sun wanted to wait until Yan Chuan was at a disadvantage. However, the great heavenly seal and the great world-suppressing monument were in a stalemate. Guyu Holy Sun did not dare to wait. If anything happened to the great world-suppressing monument, the great Saint Lord would blame him. He had no choice but to shout. Yan Chuan looked into the distance in shock. When Guyu Holy Sun took out the decree, Kong Xianshui panicked. Was he panicking? He was an upper void stage expert and the temple master of the divine sex Holy Land. Why would he panic? It seems like I can't hide it from them. Jingming. Jingming. What a powerful technique. Hand over the great world-suppressing monument. No, I'm about to succeed. I must get the purple birth chart. I must. Kong Xianshui said with a hint of madness. Jingming was hundreds of millions of miles away, and ZZ's fate was right in front of him. How could he give it up? How could he give up now? Wait a little longer, after I obtain ZZ's fate, I will put the great world-suppressing steel back to its original place. At that time, I will go to the great revelation sacred ground to ask for forgiveness. Kong Xianshui shouted. Guyu Holy Sun sneered. Ask for forgiveness? It was too late. Who in the world would dare to touch the Saint Lord's belongings? You're the only one who doesn't know what death is. The Holy Lord has decreed that whoever steals the tablet will be executed on the spot. Anyone who dares to resist will have their entire family wiped out. Guyu Holy Sun shouted coldly. Tablet robbers executed on the spot. Anyone who dares to resist will have their entire family wiped out. No, Jingming, she won't let me live. She didn't even leave him a way out. Kong Xianshui panicked. This kind of panic made Yan Chuan very confused. The world was so big. If you can't beat Jingming, can't you just run away? Why was he so afraid? Was Jingming really that scary? Millions of miles away, just a name and you're so scared? You're at the upper void realm, can't you have some backbone? Kong Xianshui, hurry up and accept the decree. Guyu Holy Sun shouted. As soon as Guyu Holy Sun shouted, Kong Xuanshui's face was filled with sorrow. He then looked at Kong Outyan. Father? Kong Outyan was confused as to why his father was panicking. Seeing his son, Kong Xuanshui's face was filled with love. Then, his eyes narrowed. If Jingming says so, I will definitely die. Outyan, before I die, I will do something for you. I will help you obtain ZZ's fate. Kong Xianshui said solemnly. Father? What's wrong? Kong Outyan asked in panic. Kong Xianshui did not say a word. Instead, a large amount of black gas gushed out from his body and a large amount of merits surrounded him. Great world suppressing steel, suppress. Kong Xianxue used all his strength to activate the great world-suppressing steel. A powerful force pressed against the great heavenly seal. How dare you! Suddenly, a woman's cold shout came from the void. Her voice was filled with arrogance. This shout caused the hearts of countless cultivators in the surroundings to tremble. Some of the weaker cultivators were even forced to their knees by this domineering shout. Chapter 8:13. How dare you! Above the void, a woman's cold voice was heard. Her voice was filled with a domineering aura. This shout caused the hearts of countless cultivators in the surroundings to tremble. Some of the weaker cultivators were even forced to their knees by this domineering shout. Buzz! The great suppressing boundary steel trembled as if it was responding to the voice. Just the voice alone was enough to make everyone's heart tremble. Yan Chuan raised his head. His pupils shrunk. Kong Xianxue was even more panic-stricken. This voice? Others might not know, but Kong Xianxue had heard of it before. Jingming. Jingming's voice. Jingming was here. Kong Xianxue was shocked. He turned his head to look. The voice came from Guyu Holy Sun. Guyu Holy Sun had already kneeled down. The decree in his hand floated in the air. The voice came from the decree. The decree slowly floated in the air, and the golden decree slowly unfolded. After unfolding, there were no words on the decree, only a royal seal. On the seal were the words, "Blessed by the heavens, long life and prosperity." Blessed by the heavens, long life and prosperity. Yan Chuan raised his eyebrows. These words were the imperial seal of the world, the imperial seal of the emperor. But Jingming was the lord of the Holy Land, not the emperor. Why did she use the imperial seal? Greetings, great sacred lord. Countless cultivators bowed. The decree floated in the air and the great suppressing boundary steel was no longer under Kong Xianxue's control. Kong Xianxue panicked. Looking at the decree, his face was pale and bloodless. Holy Land of Divine Sect, Gue Shui Palace Lord, Kong Xianxue, greets great sacred lord. Kong Xianxue said respectfully. When I placed the great suppressing boundary steel, I had already announced it to the world. Kong Xianxue, you dare to go against my will. The decree said coldly. The voice was filled with majesty. It was a domineering aura. Kong Xianxue panicked and said, Great sacred lord, I was impulsive. Please be lenient. You knowingly committed a crime. Seeing that you are remorseful, I will be lenient. You, kill yourself. The decree floated in the air and said. You, kill yourself. The tone was as if it was a great favor. But at this moment, countless people were shocked. Kong Xianxue was at the upper void stage. Even if he was at the first level of the upper void stage, he was still at the upper void stage. Jingming asked him to kill himself. Kill himself? Even Yan Chuan could feel Jingming's domineering aura. Hundreds of millions of miles away, a decree came, and an upper void stage cultivator was asked to commit suicide? How domineering was that? Father! Kong Outyan panicked. Kong Xianxue. Reaching out his hand, Kong Xianxue took out a jade slip and shoved it into Kong Outyan's hand. Scram! It's all because of you, you unfilial son. I wouldn't have fallen to such a state. Kong Xianxue shouted. Father! What are you waiting for? I'm not leaving. You guys, take this bastard away. Even if I die, I don't want to see him. Kong Xianxue shouted at the Middle Void Realm cultivators. Yes. The Middle Void Realm cultivators replied. Kong Xianxue Xiong Outyan. He was protecting Kong Outyan. The 9 Middle Void Realm cultivators grabbed Kong Outyan and flew away quickly. Father! Father! Kong Outyan shouted. But how could he be a match for the 9 Middle Void Realm cultivators? They disappeared in the blink of an eye. The decree said again, your bloodline is gone. Kang Xianshui, why don't you kill yourself? Chapter 8:14. Jingming was forcing Kang Xianshui to commit suicide. Countless cultivators looked at the sky, but no one dared to say anything. No one from the divine sects and sacred grounds came out to stop them. The title of the strongest person in the world was so powerful. Kang Xianshui looked at the decree, and his expression changed. Great Sacred Lord, Kang Xianshui knows your name, and I have seen your methods. Commit suicide. Kang Xianshui does not dare to resist, but in the face of life and death, I have to fight for it. Kang Xianshui said to the decree. Jingming's angry snort came from the decree. Sorry. Kang Xianshui shouted. Whoosh. Then, Kang Xianshui did not dare to hesitate, he took a step forward, and rushed in the opposite direction of Kang Outyan. Run. Kang Xianshui could not resist when he was asked to commit suicide. In the face of death, Kang Xianshui could only choose to run, even if he had to hide in a corner. Whoosh. The speed of an upper void realm expert was astonishing, he turned into a stream of light and reached the horizon. In front of my decree, you think you can run? Jingming's cold snort came from the decree, and the decree suddenly burst out with a dazzling golden light. Bang! It was like a sun, illuminating everything in the world. Yan Chuan saw clearly that under the endless light, a golden palm reached out from the decree, and grabbed at the direction where Kang Xianshui was running. As soon as the golden palm struck out, its power was immense. If the heavenly retribution's aura was strong before, then this palm's aura was 10 times stronger. Under this aura, countless cultivators were frightened from the bottom of their hearts. A large number of cultivators knelt down. Boom! The palm reached into the horizon, and grabbed the escaping Kang Xianshui. No, this is just a decree, how can you catch me from 10,000 miles away? Can you catch me from the great sacred ground from billions of miles away? No. Kang Xianshui's voice came from the horizon, his voice was filled with endless sorrow and hatred. Those who go against my decree, die. An angry roar came from the void. Rumble. In the horizon, an extremely intense flame rushed to the sky, as if another sun had risen from the horizon. The giant palm turned into a sun, and trapped Kang Xianshui. Ah! Kang Xianshui's miserable scream came from the horizon. The faces of countless cultivators twitched as if they could not believe what they saw. They also felt even more reverence for the great light holy master, who was billions of kilometers away. Yan Chuan raised his eyebrows. He was also surprised. Jingming's means were completely out of his expectation. How could he kill Kang Xianshui with just a decree from hundreds of millions of miles away? Even in Yan Chuan's previous life, he hadn't been able to achieve this level of strength. The most powerful person in the world. Jingming? For the first time, Yan Chuan paid attention to Jingming. It was the grand sun primordial flame that burned Kang Xianshui. Jin Dayu's expression changed. Kang Xianshui's blood-curdling screams didn't stop for a full breath of time. Boom! The flames in the distance dispersed, and Kang Xianshui turned into ashes. Unable to resist. In front of Jing Ting, even an upper void stage expert was unable to resist. In the distance, Guyu Holy Sun's eyes flashed with endless worship. The golden light dissipated. The decree was still floating in the sky. Yan Chuan kept the great heavenly seal and the giant vine at the right time. The decree was high up in the sky and suddenly faced the west. The divine world of the divine sect's sacred ground. Everyone in the divine world, listen up. Put the great boundary suppressing steel back where it was. If anyone steals it again, I will wash the divine sect's sacred ground with blood. The surrounding cultivators were stunned. Was this a threat? Wash the divine sect's sacred ground with blood? That was too overbearing. In the west, The void trembled slightly in response to Jing Ting's words. Don't worry, Holy Master Jing. My sect will send people to guard you. The great boundary suppressing steel will never be stolen again. An old voice came from the divine world. Jing Ting's voice sounded satisfied. Gu Yu. Jing Ting's voice came from the decree. Present. Gu Yu Holy Son said respectfully. Put the great boundary suppressing steel back where it was and put this decree aside. Jing Ting's voice said. Yes, Your Majesty. Gu Yu Holy Son said respectfully. The decree slowly floated to Gu Yu Holy Son. Gu Yu Holy Son received it respectfully. At the same time, he flew carefully toward the great boundary suppressing steel and grabbed it. Jing Ting's aura disappeared, but the surrounding cultivators were still in a daze. Many of them even forgot to get up from their kneeling. Jing Ting had just threatened the entire divine sect's sacred ground, but none of the divine world's experts had any thoughts of resistance. They had even guaranteed it again and again. Jing Ting's prestige was too strong. The divine sect's sacred ground and the Dazhao's sacred ground should be on the same level. Why did it seem like the Dazhao's sacred ground was superior? Everyone was shocked, but no one dared to say anything. The scene just now still shocked everyone. The divine sect's palace master had been killed by Jing Ting in front of his home, but no one in the divine world dared to stand up for him. The strongest person in the world. Not to mention the countless kneeling cultivators, even Yan Chuan and his group were extremely shocked. How domineering! Meng Hongying's eyes flashed with shock. Yan Chuan was the same, but Yan Chuan was more excited. An inexplicable excitement. An expert? An expert could not suppress Yan Chuan's ambition. On the contrary, it could stimulate Yan Chuan's ambition. One day, he would be able to make all sects submit to him with a single command. Hiding the determination in his eyes, Yan Chuan looked at ZZ and said, "Let's go. Let's continue our journey." ZZ nodded. Everyone slowly boarded the flying boat. Saintess Hongying, we'll meet again. Yan Chuan said to Meng Hongying. Meng Hongying looked at everyone and felt a little disappointed, but she still nodded calmly. The flying boat rose into the air and flew slowly towards the East Divine Continent. At this moment, no one could stop them. Father, father! In a forest far away, Kong Outyan cried out in grief. Young master, the old master has passed away. Please don't be sad. A middle void realm elder said. Young master. My father is dead. Will you still protect me? I have offended all of you in the past. Kong Outyan looked at everyone. After being kidnapped by Yan Chuan for a period of time, Kong Outyan's playboy nature had been beaten down. Now that his father was dead, Kong Outyan was even more terrified. The 9 of them suddenly knelt down on one knee in front of Kong Outyan. Young master, although we are from the 10th God Hall, we have another identity. We are the servants of the Kong family, responsible for the rise of the young master's bloodline. The old master is dead. From now on, you are the new master. The leading elder said solemnly. We pledge our lives to protect the young master. Everyone shouted in unison. The Kong family? Is the Kong family powerful? Kong Outyan wiped his tears and said. Chapter 8:15. 1 year later, in a forest. ZZ, Huoguang, Jin Dayu, and Feng Yinyang were guarding the area. In the center, Yan Chuan was facing the rolling heavenly wrath. He opened his mouth and swallowed it all. Although Jin Dayu, Huoguang, and Feng Yinyang had conflicted expressions on their faces, in the end, they accepted this inconceivable matter. Rumble. The rolling heavenly wrath was absorbed by Yan Chuan. Yan Chuan's body was surrounded by electric arcs. Everyone flew onto the flying boat and felt depressed. Because the stimulation just now seemed to be too great. This was not the first time. Along the way, Yan Chuan had swallowed the heavenly wrath many times. Yan Chuan entered the main hall and digested it for a while. Then he walked out of the main hall again. ZZ was guarding the main hall. A trace of resentment flashed in her eyes. ZZ, you don't have to worry anymore. Yan Chuan said with a smile. Did you break through this time? ZZ asked. I'm still in the 10th tier of the divine realm. I can't break through anymore. Yan Chuan shook his head. The two walked to the bow of the boat. They looked at the scenery around them. Are you really okay? ZZ asked worriedly. Don't worry, he said. Heavenly lightning body tempering is something that comes from the inside out. Like I said, you might not be important in the eyes of others, but to me, you are my lucky star. Look, my cultivation base is soaring. I'm already in the full circle of the divine realm. I just need an opportunity to break through to the emptiness realm. Yan Chuan hugged ZZ and sat on a chair at the bow of the boat. Rumble. The heavenly wrath followed again. But now, Yan Chuan had already gotten used to it. ZZ looked at the sky and was still worried. Don't worry. I've already gotten used to this level of heavenly wrath. It won't strike anymore. I know it's useless. Yan Chuan said with a smile. Seeing that the heavenly wrath surrounded them but did not strike, ZZ was relieved. You've already swallowed the heavenly wrath several times. Is your cultivation really unable to increase anymore? ZZ asked with a frown. I need luck. Of course, if there is an even stronger heavenly punishment, I might be able to break through again. Yan Chuan smiled. Even more powerful? ZZ was slightly stunned. For example. Yan Chuan whispered in ZZ's ear. ZZ's face immediately turned red. No, not now. ZZ immediately shook her head. Alright, then we'll talk about it in Beijing. Yan Chuan said gently. No, not even in Beijing. ZZ suddenly shook her head. The divine retribution is already so great in our current state, but if it's really as you said, then the divine retribution will definitely be even stronger, and it might even be a destructive divine retribution. No, not now. What will I do if something happens to you? ZZ immediately shook her head. Huh. Take your time, okay? Wait until your cultivation is a little higher, then be a little stronger. ZZ advised gently. Alright. Yan Chuan nodded. Since ZZ was unwilling, Yan Chuan would not force her. Moreover, ZZ was doing this for Yan Chuan's sake. The two sat at the bow and watched the sun rise slowly in the east. The scene was extremely mesmerizing. ZZ gently leaned into Yan Chuan's embrace. At this moment, ZZ's eyes were filled with sweetness. Looking at the rising sun, it was as if she saw the hope of life. The darkest moment before dawn had finally passed. Now, she was no longer lonely. What followed was happiness. ZZ looked at the rising sun happily. Yan Chuan leaned his face against ZZ's hair, and a sense of peace suddenly arose in his heart. The flying ship flew as if time had stopped. The two of them sat quietly at the bow of the ship. The officials around them did not disturb them, each doing their own thing. The flying ship continued to fly toward Dijon. Chapter 8:16. Just as the two of them were in bliss. Buzz. The void in front of Yan Chuan suddenly trembled. The two of them frowned. Whoosh. A formation appeared in the trembling void and a palm-sized figure suddenly appeared above the light. Meow. An excited meow suddenly sounded. Whoosh. An extremely cute kitten appeared in front of them. Meow. ZZ's face immediately lit up with joy. ZZ quickly went forward and hugged Meow. Miao and Yan Chuan had signed a clan contract. Miao could teleport to Yan Chuan from anywhere through the clan contract. Last time, she had followed Mo Yushi to the Dazhao sacred ground to eat immortal stones. This time, she suddenly came. Sister Zizi. Miao Miao called out excitedly. Immediately, Miao jumped into Zizi's arms. Miao could be like a top bull. Similarly, she did not feel the curse on Zizi's body at all. Miao, why are you here? Zizi asked excitedly. I'm looking for Delu and Yan Chuan. Why are you here too? Ah, Yan Chuan took you home. Miao said excitedly. Zizi nodded and a trace of happiness flashed across her face. You're finally willing to come back. Yan Chuan said with a smile. Oh. Miao, where did you go? Zizi asked curiously. I went to Sister Mo's place. She treated me to immortal stones. Miao. Miao said with a trace of greed as she recalled the aftertaste. Mo Yushi. Zizi's expression suddenly changed. Miao. Miao nodded. Zizi's expression flickered slightly, but she did not say anything. Instead, she flipped her hand and took out a purple stone from her storage treasure. The stone emitted a beautiful mist. Miao, this is for you. Zizi said. Miao, it's even bigger than Sister Mo's immortal stone, Miao. Miao excitedly hugged it. When Zizi heard that her immortal stone was bigger than the one Mo Yushi gave to Miao, her face lit up with joy. Zizi, don't spoil Miao too much. Yan Chuan laughed. I'm happy to. Zizi pouted. Yan Chuan smiled bitterly. Miao. Big hooligan. Big baddie. Big sister Zizi gave it to me, not to you. Miao immediately bared its fangs and brandished its claws at Yan Chuan. Of course, this baring of fangs and brandishing of claws was not intimidating at all. It was more adorable. Yan Chuan looked at Miao, amused. Miao. That's right, big baddie. Stingy guy. If it wasn't for big sister Zizi, I wouldn't have bothered with you. Sister Mo asked me to bring you a letter. Miao cried. As she spoke, she took out an envelope from her felt hat and threw it to Yan Chuan. Yan Chuan took it. He was slightly surprised. Zizi, who was holding Miao, saw the letter and was slightly moved. But she still said, I'll take Miao to walk around the ship. I haven't seen Miao for a long time. Looking at Zizi, Yan Chuan nodded, but his heart was filled with gratitude and relief. Soon, Yan Chuan was left alone at the bow of the ship. Looking at the letter, Yan Chuan thought for a while and opened it. Looking at the contents of the letter, his expression suddenly froze. He became serious. Yan Chuan read the contents of the letter again and again. After reading it over and over again, Yan Chuan put away the letter and his expression became extremely serious. Looking at the sun in the distance, Yan Chuan fell into deep thought. Tapping his fingers lightly on the armrest of the chair, Yan Chuan seemed to be thinking about something. On the other side, Zizi took Miao to walk around and said, Miao, tell me what interesting things you've encountered in these years, okay? And, what did you see in the Dazhao holy ground? That Mo Yushi, what kind of person is she? Chapter 8:17. Okay. Miao Miao said, hugging the immortal stone in her arms. Overwhelmed with happiness, she agreed without even thinking about it. Yan Chuan remained silent for a while. Stop the ship. Yan Chuan ordered. Yes. The soldiers' voices came from afar. Call everyone over. Yan Chuan's face turned solemn. Ah. Yes. Soon, Hua Guang, Feng Yinyang, Jin Dayu, Tan Lang, Zizi, and even Miao arrived before Yan Chuan. Zizi, I might have to go to the Dajiao's sacred ground. Yan Chuan said seriously. What happened? ZZ asked worriedly. Yes. Not only did something happen, but the entire world might change. Yan Chuan said seriously. Great change in the world. Everyone was surprised. Can you go back to Beijing with Huo Guang and the others? Yan Chuan asked. ZZ nodded when she saw Yan Chuan's serious expression. Okay, I'll wait for you in Beijing. Your Majesty. What happened? Huo Guang asked curiously. Something big is about to happen. Jin Dayu, follow me to the Dajiao sacred ground immediately. Everyone else, return to Beijing. I'll write a letter to Yi Feng later to explain some things. Perhaps, it won't be long before the Great Jin Empire becomes an emperor empire. Huo Guang, when you return, train the troops and prepare them to the highest possible condition. Yan Chuan said solemnly. Yes. Huo Guang replied. Feng Yinyang, I've mentioned the feng shui construction of Dajiao dynasty to you many times over the years. When we go back, I'll give you a handwritten order to get Yi Feng to cooperate with you. Yan Chuan said. Yes. Feng Yinyang nodded. Your Majesty, will your trip be dangerous? Huo Guang asked worriedly. With Jin Dayu accompanying us, you don't have to worry. Yan Chuan said. Don't worry, Lord Hua. You don't have to worry about His Majesty's strength. I will definitely ensure His Majesty's safety. Jin Dayu guaranteed. Also, Huo Guang, go and see Bai Ditian when you reach Yanjing. Ask him to meet me at the Great Zhao's sacred ground. Yan Chuan said. Yes. Miao. What about me? Miao asked excitedly. You? Stay behind and protect ZZ. If anything happens to ZZ, you can inform me immediately. Yan Chuan said. Miao. Miao was obviously unwilling to give up. Your mission is the most important. Yan Chuan said affirmatively. Miao. Miao was finally satisfied. ZZ's eyes flashed with a trace of gratitude, but it quickly turned into a trace of tenderness. Yan Chuan organized a batch of imperial edicts and asked Huo Guang to bring them back. Jin Dayu returned to his room alone. After a while, he walked out. Jin Dayu, let's go. Yan Chuan said. Your Majesty, I have a secret technique here that I can give to the Empress. Jin Dayu said. Oh. This is a secret technique passed down by my ancestors. It requires a special physique. I think that the Empress's fate is really the best. This should be a type of curse-type sorcery. Jin Dayu handed over a scroll made of animal skin. Oh. Yao art? Yan Chuan took it. A thread of curiosity flashed through Yan Chuan's eyes. Nailhead 7 Arrows book. Jin Dayu said. Yan Chuan quickly skimmed through it. After reading it, his eyes lit up. Jin Dayu, I accept this gift. I will compensate you in the future. Yan Chuan said solemnly. Jin Dayu smiled and did not say much. Yan Chuan handed the Nailhead 7 Arrows book to ZZ. Take a look. If you are interested, you can study it. ZZ nodded. Jin Dayu, let's go. Yan Chuan stepped out of the airship. Jin Dayu's body swayed and turned into a giant golden crow. Your Majesty, get on my back. Wah! The golden crow carried Yan Chuan. With a flap of its wings, it shot into the distance and disappeared into the horizon. Chapter 818. East Divine Continent, Dajiao's sacred ground, in a great hall. Mo Yushi sat with Qing Long and the others. Mo Yushi drank tea with a worried expression. Qing Long and the others stood behind her. Clang! The door of the great hall opened, and Mr. Monroe stepped into the hall. Then, the door closed again. Mr. Monroe, how are things now? Mo, she asked as she put down her teacup. Mr. Monroe smiled bitterly. Fortunately, I didn't let you down. I've dealt with those people. Phew. Qing Long and the others sighed in relief. Holy Lady, how did such a big thing happen this time? Wen Ruo asked worriedly. Sigh, I don't know either. Mo, she said with a complicated expression. Someone must be trying to frame you, Holy Lady. However, the evidence is conclusive. So many people died, including the Holy Sun and Holy Lady. Even if you're the Holy Lady, you can't escape the blame. Wen Ruo said worriedly. Mo, she shook her head. They can't do anything to me. Oh. Mr. Monroe looked puzzled. Thank you, Mr. Monroe. I won't hide it from you. When my father was alive, he gave me a token. With this token, I can contact the Holy Lord directly. No matter how big a mistake I make, the Holy Lord will protect me. Mo, she took a deep breath. Token? The Holy Lord? How is that possible? The Sacred Lord basically doesn't care about the Great Revelation's sacred ground. Even the death of the Sacred Son and Sacred Daughter. No, your father is a Tao Lord. Back then, the Sacred Lord didn't pay much attention to it. It was the other people in the sect who took revenge. Why would the Holy Lord protect you personally? Mr. Monroe was puzzled. I'm not sure either, but I believe in my father. Although I can't see the Holy Master, as long as I give the token to Shangguanwan, she should be able to introduce me to him. Mo, she said with a frown. Shangguanwaner. Mr. Monroe fell into deep thought. Shangguanwan doesn't have a Dharma seat in the sect, but she's the Holy Lord's most trusted person. The Holy Lord spends most of his time in seclusion, but the Holy Lord has given all the power in the sect to Shangguanwan. Even the other two Taoist lords aren't as powerful as her. Shangguanwan keeps a very low profile, but I can tell that she cares a lot about you. Mr. Monroe said thoughtfully. I believe Father. With this command medallion, I'll definitely be safe. But I keep feeling that there's some other scheme behind this. Why would someone want to frame me? Moreover, it was so tragic. If we don't get to the bottom of this, I'm afraid that even if Holy Master can protect me, I will continue to fall into this trap. Mo, she said solemnly. But those corpses have all been buried by them. There's no way to investigate now. The Saintess was also unconscious at that time. There's no evidence. Mr. Monroe said with a frown. Let's wait a little longer. He'll be here soon. Mo, she sighed softly. Him? Yan Chuan? Wen Ruo asked doubtfully. Mo, she nodded. But this just happened. Even if we inform Yan Chuan, it'll take a long time. Wen Ruo said with a frown. No, more than a year ago. Because of other matters, I've already informed him. He should have been here more than a year ago. Mo, she said. Other matters? Mr. Monroe's expression changed, but he nodded in the end. I can see that the Taoist lords of Sun and Moon have been acting very strangely in the past 2 years. I got the news from Shangguanwan. Shangguanwan told me to, so. Mo, she was a little troubled. Chapter 8:19. Ha ha ha, I understand. Saintess, you don't have to take it to heart. I'm still an outsider. Wen Ruo shook her head. The Great Zhao's sacred ground. Yan Chuan and Jin Dayu landed on the peak of a mountain and looked into the distance at the sky filled with golden light. There was a huge mountain in the center, and the sky was filled with rolling merits. The sea of merits covered the sky and covered dozens of mountains. At the top of the sea of merits, there were thousands of human-shaped merits condensed from merits. Is this the Great Zhao's sacred ground sea of merits and thousands of Dharma idols? Jin Dayu frowned. The thousands of Dharma idols corresponded to the thousands of experts in the Great Zhao's sacred ground. Yan Chuan looked at the center. There were 3 figures. Yan Chuan recognized one on the left and one on the right. They were Mohina Dojin and Dao Lord Yu Yu. The Dharma idols of the 2 Dao lords and thousands of Dharma idols bowed to the figure in the center. It was a woman in a luxurious robe. The woman sat on a throne. Her face was blurry, but she exuded a domineering aura. Jingming. Yan Chuan narrowed his eyes. Your Majesty, the #1 city in the world, Great Zhou City, is in front. Jin Dayu said. Great Zhou City. The city lord is Mr. Monroe. Let's go. We'll enter the city first and ask around. Yan Chuan said. Yes. The 2 of them leaped and flew to the crowded city in the distance. This city did not have a city wall and did not need one. Who would dare to invade the city of the Great Zhao's sacred ground? Moreover, it was close to Jingming. Who would not want to live and attack the city? Great Jin Dynasty, Yanjing. Bai Ditian's Tiger God Temple. Huo Guang handed a letter to Bai Ditian. Supremacy Bai, His Majesty asked me to give this to you. He wants you to set off for the Great Zhao's sacred ground immediately. Huo Guang said solemnly. Bai Ditian read the contents of the letter. As he read, his eyes gradually narrowed. Jingming Shatian. Bai Ditian's pupils constricted. Shatian? Huo Guang did not understand. That's not right. It shouldn't be as simple as killing the heavens. Bai Ditian immediately frowned as he paced back and forth in the hall. Supremacy Bai, His Majesty has asked you to go as soon as possible. Huo Guang said. Bai Ditian nodded and said, I understand. I will go. Huo Guang, during this period, maintain the state of the Great Jin army. Something big might happen soon. I know, His Majesty has already given the order. Huo Guang shouted. Yes. I'll leave for the Great Zhao's sacred ground. Go ahead. Bai Ditian said. All right. After Huo Guang left, Bai Ditian continued to walk in the hall. The most powerful person in the world. Kill the heavens? How bold. Southern Divine Continent. What a tragedy. Inside a large hall. King Guai sat on the 9 dragons' heavenly throne as he looked at the court. A skeleton walked in the middle, reporting to Your Majesty, the 1st Legion, 2nd Legion, and 3rd Legion have already annihilated the 3 middle-level sets. The army will continue to expand. King Guai nodded. At this moment, Li Canghai also stepped forward. Your Majesty, the ghostly soldiers from the netherworld are constantly being deployed into the living world. Our Great Zhao's sacred ground has become the norm. The day of unifying the Southern Divine Continent is just around the corner. Li Canghai said respectfully. Good. King Guai nodded. King Guai looked at the court and said, I will set off for the Great Zhao's sacred ground 3 days later. I will fight in Jingming Shatian. When I'm not around, Li Canghai will be in charge. Yes, Your Majesty. May Your Majesty live for 10,000 years. The court officials bowed. Snake Emperor, come with me. King of Gai said in a low voice. Chapter 820. In a corner of the hall stood a man with a gloomy face. His face was pale, and he coughed with a handkerchief in his hand. Cough, cough, cough. After coughing for a while, he seemed to feel much better. He nodded and said, Your Majesty, the Snake Emperor will naturally accompany you. In a hall in the North Divine Continent. Yao Tianshang, who had opened the tomb with Gu Yu Holy Sun, was frowning as he read a letter. A group of great demons stood beside him. Their leader was Spider King, who had competed with Yan Chuan in the Heavenly Bestowment Conference decades ago. Your Majesty. Is it urgent? Spider King asked with a frown. Yao Tiansheng passed the letter to the great demons, and they quickly read it. The Archaic Mysteries sect is in the North Divine Continent. Tao Lord Yu came with Jingming's decree to forbid the Archaic Mysteries sect from divining the heavenly secrets. What does Jingming want? Spider King asked in surprise. Something big has happened in the East Divine Continent. Yao Tiansheng said in a low voice. Something big? Spider King raised an eyebrow. I have already made arrangements for the construction of the Yao Nation. Spider King, follow me to the East Divine Continent immediately. Yao Tiansheng said in a low voice. Yes. In a forest in the Middle Divine Continent. There was a manor in the forest. In a hall in the manor. The emperor stood in the middle of the hall. An old man held a painting in front of him and compared it to the emperor. The woman in the painting looked exactly like the emperor. However, the woman in the painting was smiling happily, while the emperor in front of him had an extremely serious expression. Phew, are you really the daughter of the Blade Demon? Are you really? I was still suspicious of the instructions left by our ancestor. I didn't expect you to really come. The old man said in surprise. Ancestor. Your lineage has really declined. Before I left you all a set of blade techniques. Whether you can rise up or not depends on yourselves. The emperor said calmly. Yes, thank you, Saintess. Thank you. The old man said excitedly. Alright, now tell me what happened back then. How did my father die? The emperor said in a low voice. The old man frowned and shook his head. Saintess, our ancestor left a message. However, he said that he didn't know what happened that day, but someone must know. Oh. The emperor looked at the old man in confusion. The lord of the Dazhao Holy Ground, Jing Ming. The ancestor said that on the day the saber demon fell, Jing Ming was beside him. Jing Ming definitely knows everything. The old man said. Jing Ming, right next to the place where my father died. Witnessed everything. The emperor raised his eyebrows. Yes, that's what our ancestors told us. The old man nodded. The emperor frowned slightly. That woman again. Saintess. The old man called out. I got it. I'll carve the saber technique on the stone wall behind your house. You can observe it from there. The emperor said in a deep voice. Yes, thank you Saintess, thank you Saintess. The old man said happily. The emperor left behind the sword-shaped stone inscription and left the manor. At the peak of a mountain, the emperor looked at the horizon with a frown. Jingling. Although I don't want to see you, for the sake of my father's revenge, I will endure for the time being. The emperor stepped forward and flew towards the east. Great Zhao Holy Land, Great Zhou City. In a restaurant. Yan Chuan and Jin Dayu sat down, and a man stood in front of them. Are you saying that Holy Maiden Mo Yushi killed someone? And all of them were the sons of experts? Even Mohina Dojin's children were killed? Yan Chuan said with a serious expression. Of course. What else do you want to know? As long as you can afford the spirit stones, I can tell you everything. The man laughed. Chapter 821. Dazhao Holy Ground. Inside a large hall. Guyu Holy Sun looked at the 7 coffins in front of him with a gloomy face. Inside each coffin was a corpse. 3 men and 4 women. The 7 corpses were dressed in luxurious robes and their throats were slit. There was no sound. Guyu Holy Sun's face was gloomy. Beside him stood Mohina Dojin's favorite son, Yang Zigu. 2nd to 8th brother. What happened to them? I went to the Central Divine Continent. Why are they all dead? Moreover, this is not how they should die. Guyu Holy Sun said with a gloomy face. Guyu, don't worry. Father has a plan. Yang Zigu smiled. Rumor has it that Mo Yushi killed all of them. However, when I saw the corpses, I knew that it was definitely not Mo Yushi's doing. You said that father has a plan. What plan? Is it because of you again? Guyu Holy Sun's face changed. Yang Zigu said proudly, that's right. Father wants to force Mo Yushi to marry me. That's why second to eighth brother faked their deaths. Faked their deaths? Why? Can they still be alive? Guyu Holy Sun said in a low voice. Of course. No matter what, they are still my brothers. How can I let them die for no reason? Yang Zigu smiled. They died in front of everyone. How can they come back to life? How can we explain this to the Holy Master? Guyu Holy Sun said in a low voice. You don't have to worry about this. Father has a plan. Yang Zigu said confidently. Guyu Holy Sun looked at his 7 siblings lying in the coffins and then at Yang Zigu. His expression was complicated. It's because of you again. Father is too biased. He is so biased that he let his 7 children die for your marriage. Guyu Holy Sun felt a chill in his heart. Guyu Holy Sun could not understand his father's love. These were the biological children of Tao Lord Rage Sun. Were they really going to die just because of Yang Zhijio's nonsense? Yang Zigu said, Brother Guyu Holy Sun. You Holy Sun. Of you Holy Sun. You Holy Sun. Mo you Holy Sun. You Holy. You Holy Sun. They are my blood brothers and sisters. If they don't come back to life, I'll take your life. Ancient You Saint Child said coldly. You Holy Sun. You of you. Of. Mo you Holy Sun has a low status in the Holy Land. He is only forcing Mo Yushi to marry him. Why did he go through so much trouble? Why did so many people die? Guyu Holy Sun said in a low voice. How would I know? You Holy Sun. I don't have time to look at these dead people with you. I still have to find Mo Yushi and ask for her hand in marriage. Yang Zigu flung his sleeves and walked out of the hall. Guyu Holy Sun's face darkened as he watched Yang Zigu leave. Guyu Holy Sun turned to look at the 7 coffins. Second brother, third brother. I don't care how you died. You will come back to life. Otherwise, I will take revenge for you. It is our fortune to be born into this family, but it is also our sorrow. Guyu Holy Sun said bitterly. Yan Chuan and Jin Dayu were flying in the air. In front of them were 2 purple-robed figures. I have seen his portrait. He is Yan Chuan, the ruler of the Dajin dynasty. One of the purple-robed men shouted coldly. You are Yan Chuan. The other man's eyes lit up. Who are you? Yan Chuan looked coldly at the 2 men who had suddenly appeared. Chapter 822. We're the perfected cultivators of the Lanyu sect. One of them said. Oh. Lanyu sect? The top 10 mid-level sects in the East Divine Continent. I heard that your sect leader was once a disciple of the Dazhao Sacred Ground. Later, he got permission from Jing Ming to establish the Lanyu sect as a subsidiary of the Dazhao Sacred Ground? Yan Chuan recalled. Good that you know. Our sect leader is an upper void realm expert. Yan Chuan, surrender. One of the purple-robed men shouted. Surrender without a fight? I, Yan Chuan, have nothing to do with the Lanyu sect? Yan Chuan asked doubtfully. Yes, but you have something to do with Mo Yushi. Rumor has it that you're Mo Yushi's lover. Mo Yushi killed our sect leader's son and is now hiding at Meng Wenrua's place. As long as we capture you, I don't believe that Mo Yushi won't come out. The purple-robed man shouted. Yan Chuan narrowed his eyes. Is that so? Senior brother, just capture him. Don't talk nonsense with him. The other purple-robed man shouted. Yes. The two of them rushed toward Yan Chuan. Boom. Jin Dayu rushed forward and threw 2 punches. The 3 of them started fighting. Roar. Jin Dayu fought fiercely. As he roared, his punches were extremely powerful. There was even a burning force on his fists. Boom. Boom. The 2 Dharma treasures were immediately deformed by Jin Dayu's attacks. Ah! Ah! In the blink of an eye, the 2 purple-robed experts were sent flying. Yan Chuan did not stop and continued to fly toward the city lord's mansion. Soon, he arrived in front of the city lord's mansion. Who are you? Someone from the city lord's mansion stopped him. You may leave. Mr. Monroe's voice came from behind. Yes. The guards retreated. Yan Chuan and Jin Dayu also saw Mr. Monroe. Ha, Hades Emperor, I was just talking to the saint about you yesterday, and you're already here today. Please. Mr. Monroe immediately stepped forward with a smile. Taking a deep breath, Yan Chuan looked at Mr. Monroe and said, Mr. Monroe, thank you so much for this. Ha, I didn't do anything. Please, meet the saintess first. We'll talk later. Wenrua said with a smile. All right. Under Mr. Monroe's guidance, Yan Chuan soon arrived outside a large hall. Qing Long, Bai Long, Rosefinch, Xuanwu, and 4 women stood guard outside the hall. Hades. Qing Long and the others exclaimed excitedly. The saintess is in the main hall. Bai Long said immediately. Bring Jin Dayu to familiarize himself with the surroundings. Yan Chuan said. Qing Long and the others suddenly raised their heads. Only then did he look at Jin Dayu in surprise. Jin Dayu? Perfected Lord Dayu? Qing Long said in surprise. Mr. Monroe also looked at Jin Dayu, who was standing beside Yan Chuan, in surprise. Jin Dayu had been walking behind Yan Chuan, and Mr. Monroe thought that he was just a subordinate of Yan Chuan. How could he have known that he was perfected Lord Dayu? Back then, the matter of the Great Jin dynasty annihilating the Great Feather Heavenly Sect had already reached Mr. Wenrua's ears. However, Mr. Wenrua would never have thought that Yan Chuan's follower was actually true Lord Great Feather. This is Jin Dayu, the 3rd army commander of the Dajin dynasty. Yan Chuan introduced him. Greetings, Master Jin. Everyone was a little confused. Was he really subdued? He was the founder of a middle-level sect. Yan Chuan's dynasty was only equivalent to a lower-level sect. How could a middle-level sect's founder be a subordinate of a dynasty? Jin Dayu, familiarize yourself with the surroundings first to prevent any thieves from sneaking in. Yan Chuan instructed Jin Dayu. All right. Jin Dayu nodded. Chapter 823. Yan Chuan and Wenrua stepped into the main hall. In the main hall, Mo Yushi also heard the news outside the hall. At this moment, she bit her lips and revealed a touched smile on her face. After such a big thing happened, the entire Dazhao Holy Land was hiding from Mo Yushi, afraid that they would be implicated. Only Mr. Monroe and Yan Chuan helped her. Hades Emperor, the Holy Maiden has always been thinking about you. This time, such a big thing happened, and she also believes that you can help solve it. Mr. Monroe said. Yan Chuan nodded and said, I heard a little about it when I was in the city. Tell me, what happened? At the mention of this matter, the 3 of them gradually became serious. Yan Chuan looked at Mo Yushi, and Mo Yushi recalled. Did you receive the letter I sent you? Mo Yushi asked. Is it related to that letter? Yan Chuan asked curiously. More or less. Other than the 2 Dao lords and Shengguanwan, only the sect masters of the 5 vassal sects of the Dazhao Holy Land know about the news. The 5 sect masters have all arrived at the Dazhao Holy Land. You know these 5 vassal sects, right? Mo Yushi asked. Yes, the 5 vassal sects of the Dazhao Holy Land. The sect masters were all from the Dazhao Holy Land. Yan Chuan said in a low voice. Yes, although they are vassal sects, they are still very prestigious in the Dazhao Holy Land. This time, the 5 sect masters each brought a son, hoping that the Holy Lord will favor them. The 5 sect masters rarely returned, so they looked for Yuyue and Maori to catch up. Mohina Dojin asked me to receive their sons and 7 of Mohina Dojin's children. At that time, I didn't think much and agreed. Mo Yushi frowned. Yes. And then? Yan Chuan frowned. And then, Mo Yushi revealed a bitter smile. That day, I invited everyone to my northern Mo hall and held a banquet. There were only the 13 of us, and we talked and ate in the northern Mo hall. But then, I don't know who poisoned me, but I fainted at that time. Mo Yushi recalled. Poison. Yan Chuan's face turned cold. Mo Yushi frowned. Yes, northern Mo hall. At that time, it was a closed-door banquet. At that time, the planning was very complicated. The person who poisoned me should be one of the other 12 people. Go on. I fell asleep. I don't know how much time had passed, but the door to the main hall was suddenly blasted open. At that moment, I was startled awake and stood up. When I stood up, I saw that the other 12 people were all lying in a pool of blood. And in my hand, I was holding a blood-soaked long saber. My body was also covered in blood. Mo Yushi recalled. All dead? Could it be Mohina Dojin? Yan Chuan said in surprise. It shouldn't be. Mohina Dojin led a group of great Zhao sacred grounds perfected lords in. When they entered the main hall, I woke up. But everyone in the main hall was dead. Moreover, the blood had dried up. Clearly, they had been dead for more than 2 hours. Mo Yushi said with a complicated expression. When you were unconscious, someone entered your main hall to kill people? Yan Chuan frowned. No. At that time, Qing Long and the others were guarding outside the main hall. My northern Mo hall even activated the array. During that time, no one could enter. Mo Yushi said with a frown. No one came in. You were the only one alive. Everyone else is dead. How did Mohina Dojin know? Yan Chuan frowned. Mohina Dojin sensed that his son was dead, so he stormed into northern Mo hall in anger. Mr. Monroe said from the side. It seems that the murderer really put in a lot of effort. Yan Chuan narrowed his eyes. Chapter 824. Looks like the culprit really put in a lot of effort. Yan Chuan narrowed his eyes. Put in a lot of effort. Ha, it's really put in a lot of effort. In fact, this is a trap. Mo Yushi said with a cold expression. Oh. You know the culprit? Yan Chuan asked doubtfully. Most likely, but there's no evidence. No one believes me. When I woke up, it was almost the same time as Mohina Dojin barged into the main hall. There were many witnesses outside the hall. I couldn't deny it. Mo Yushi said with a complicated expression. Who's the culprit? Yan Chuan asked curiously. Mohina Dojin. Mo Yushi said in a low voice. Oh. Didn't you say that he barged into northern Mo hall and those people had already been dead for 2 hours? Yan Chuan asked curiously. That's right. Mohina Dojin didn't have to be there to kill them. He didn't have to do it personally. He asked me to look after the sect master's sons to lure me into the trap and create an alibi for him. Mo Yushi said in a low voice. What do you mean? Yan Chuan asked doubtfully. You might not know, but in fact, in the Dazhao sacred ground, other than my father who was a dark phoenix, there was another phoenix, a fire phoenix. Later on, she married Mohina Dojin. However, this fire phoenix died after giving birth to Yang Zigu. Mo Yushi explained. Mohina Dojin's 9 sons are also phoenix sons. They all have the bloodline of the fire phoenix. Do you know that the phoenix people have a special ability? Mo Yushi asked. Nirvana rebirth? That's right. As long as the divine soul isn't destroyed and the body dies, the divine soul will turn into a phoenix soul egg. When this phoenix soul egg is born, it will extract all the essence of the body and turn the body into ashes. The phoenix soul egg will absorb all the essence of the body and turn into a phoenix egg. It will then break out of the nirvana rebirth. Mo Yushi explained. Dao Lord Black Sun's 7 children are all corpses. Yen Chuan's expression froze. According to their wounds, their throats were cut and blood. Their divine souls' rebirth. Their divine souls were death. Their divine souls' death. Their divine souls' were. Their divine souls. Even their souls were their souls were nirvana. Was there underscore, was, ed. Air. They didn't undergo nirvana, but split their bodies and souls. Yen Chuan immediately guessed the key point. That's right. Mohina Dojin rushed into the main hall in an instant. Indeed, he couldn't kill everyone in an instant, but he was able to silently collect the souls of his 7 children. Mo Yushi said in a low voice. No one has any doubts. There's no point in doubting it. Mohina Dojin's wife is a phoenix, but Mohina Dojin himself is a human. It can be said that Mohina Dojin's children have already abandoned the phoenix bloodline and are completely human. How could they be reborn as a phoenix? It's not impossible. Mo Yushi said. Is this just your guess? Other than this, there's no other explanation. Mr. Monroe shook his head and said. Yes, but I don't understand. Why? Why did they pay such a high price? Suicide? Just to frame me? They are the holy son and holy daughter. Mo Yushi was confused. Chapter 825. No matter what, we already know the result and the process. Yen Chuan said in a low voice. But no one will believe me without evidence. Mo Yushi said bitterly. Where are the corpses? Yen Chuan asked. They've all been taken away. Mr. Monroe smiled bitterly. Yen Chuan took a deep breath. Just as Mo Yushi had guessed, Mohina Dojin had done it flawlessly. There were no loopholes at all. Killing the Holy Sun and the Sacred Lady. Based on this crime alone, Yushi, the Sacred Lady, may be stripped of her position and banished from the Dazhao Holy Ground. Once she leaves the Dazhao Holy Ground, she will be hunted from all sides. Not only the 5 vassal sects, but even the enemies of the Sacred Lady's father would seek revenge on her. Moreover, would Mohina Dojin let the Sacred Lady off? Mr. Monroe explained. I have the token that my father left behind. The Sacred Lord can guarantee my safety. Mo Yushi said. Oh. Yen Chuan asked curiously. Then, Mo Yushi repeated what her father had said before he died. That's not right. If Jingting doesn't care about your father's life, why would he care about your life? Otherwise, your father wouldn't have died because of the token. Yen Chuan questioned. I believe in my father. Mo Yushi said with certainty. Then, Mo Yushi took out a golden token and handed it to Yen Chuan. On the token, there was only one word, Marshal. The token didn't have any vital chi fluctuations and there was no array. It was probably just a token. However, with this token, Jingting could take care of Mo Yushi. Then why didn't Mo Yushi's father protect her? Yen Chuan fell into deep thought. While the 3 of them were deep in thought, a voice suddenly sounded from outside the hall. Get out of the way, Wenruo. I know Mo Yushi is with you. Let me in. An arrogant voice came from outside the palace. Yang Zigu. Yan Chuan's expression changed as he suddenly remembered. The three people in the hall looked at each other. Yan Chuan nodded. When Ruo walked out of the main hall and very quickly, she allowed Yang Zigu to enter the main hall. The moment Yang Zigu entered the main hall, he saw Yan Chuan. It's you. You still dare to come to my great Zhao Holy Land? Yang Zigu said coldly. Yan Chuan smiled and said, I'm here for Mr. Monroe. What's there to be afraid of? Looking for Mr. Monroe. Instantly, Yang Zigu's expression relaxed a lot. Then, Yang Zigu looked at Mo Yushi. Yushi. Yang Zigu suddenly said gently. Don't call me Yushi. I can't accept it. Mo Yushi said coldly. Why can't you accept it? You're here for Northern Mo Hall. Don't worry, I've already discussed it with Father. As long as you're willing to marry me, Father will help you suppress everything. Yang Zigu said with a smile. Oh. Mohina Dojin's 7 children died, and he can sit by and do nothing? Mo Yushi's expression changed. At the side, Yan Chuan and Mr. Monroe were observing Yang Zigu's expression to judge the case. Of course, they're different. It's not like you don't know that my father listens to me. If the 7 of them died, so be it. Here are the betrothal gifts. I've already prepared them. As long as you agree, you won't have any more worries. You'll still be the saintess of the great Zhao Holy Land. No one will dare to touch you. Yang Zigu flipped his hand and took out a box of betrothal gifts. Seeing Yang Zigu's confident attitude, Yan Chuan believed Mo Yushi's guess even more. This is Mohina Dojin's scheme, right? Why is he targeting me? He's even willing to kill his own children. Mo Yushi rebuked angrily. Chapter 826. Yang Zigu panicked, but he still said calmly, What did you say? I don't understand, but let me tell you, Mo Yushi, if you don't agree to marry me, you will be banished from the Dazhao Holy Land. At that time, I will still be able to capture you, and no one will be able to protect you. Banished from the Dazhao Holy Land? Mohina Dojin is so bold, but you are also so ruthless. Using the lives of 7 brothers in exchange for me to marry you? If I really marry you, who knows when I will be like your brothers, easily slaughtered by you and used to coax the hearts of other women. Mo Yushi said coldly. No, Yushi, why would I harm you? My brothers are actually... Yang Zigu shouted anxiously, but he suddenly stopped halfway. Mo Yushi, let me tell you, I am here to give you face, and I don't want to make things difficult for you. If you marry now, you can still maintain some dignity. My father has already prepared to report this to the Holy Lord. Once the Holy Lord speaks, you can forget about escaping from my hands. You killed 7 of my brothers, and the Holy Lord will definitely agree to my father's request in order to compensate him. Yang Zigu said coldly. Scram! Mo Yushi shouted. Yang Zigu flung his sleeves and walked out of the main hall angrily. He disappeared in the blink of an eye. The main hall was silent. From the looks of it, the Holy Lady's guess should be right, and the souls of Yang Zigu's 7 brothers are definitely still in Mohina Dojin's hands. Mr. Monroe analyzed. To marry me? Why would Mohina Dojin go through so much trouble? Mo Yushi frowned. With Mohina Dojin's current achievements, if he fancies any saint lady, all he has to do is report to the Holy Master, and the Holy Master will agree to let that saint lady be his daughter-in-law. But for my matter, why would Mohina Dojin go through so much trouble? Mo Yushi was confused. This means that you have something that even Mohina Dojin can't touch. This kind of thing is even more important than Mohina Dojin's achievements. Yan Chuan analyzed in a deep voice. As he spoke, everyone looked at the command medallion. On the command medallion was the word, Marshal. Mr. Monroe, can I trouble you with something? Yan Chuan said. Oh. Please speak, Hades Emperor. I'll have to trouble you to help me gather some information about Mohina Dojin, Yang Zigu, and Guyu Holy Sun from the time of the Northern Mo Hall murder case. Yan Chuan said. Okay, no problem. Hades Emperor, do you have a solution? Mr. Monroe asked curiously. Solution? Let's take a look at them first. Oh right, if you can get Guyu Holy Sun and Yang Zigu's blood, that would be even better. If you can't get it, you can get some of their hair too. Yan Chuan said. Okay, I'll try my best. Mr. Monroe nodded. Do you have a solution? Mo Yushi frowned. From Yang Zigu's words, I can roughly tell that Yang Zigu should know everything. Since he knows, then we'll have to pry it out of him. Yan Chuan said with a serious expression. How? Mohina Dojin is very concerned about Yang Zigu. As long as Yang Zigu has any mishap, Mohina Dojin will definitely arrive in an instant. This is the Great Zhao Holy Land. Mo Yushi frowned. I know. However, with your token, I've also thought of a way. Just wait. As long as Mr. Wenruo receives the same news as what I think, we can immediately strike first and gain the initiative. Even if Tao Lord Rage Sun watches on helplessly, he won't be able to stop it. Yan Chuan said with a serious gaze. Chapter 827. On the same day, when Ruo went to collect information, Yan Chuan, accompanied by Mo Yushi, quietly went to North Mo Hall again. The door of North Mo Hall was broken, and the hall was in a mess. There were many bloodstains on the ground. Yan Chuan's eyelids twitched, and a hint of joy flashed in his eyes. The corpses have been collected. Mo Yushi sighed. It's okay, these bloodstains are enough. Which ones belong to Yang Zigu's brothers? Yan Chuan said with satisfaction. Mo Yushi pointed at a few bloodstains, and Yan Chuan carefully collected them. After looking around North Mo Hall, Yan Chuan and the rest returned to the City Lord's mansion. In the City Lord's mansion, Mr. Monroe collected a large amount of information. Yan Chuan quickly finished reading the information. He smiled and said, Mr. Monroe, you're really fast. These are all recorded. I found them quickly. Also, I found some of Yang Zigu's and Guyu Holy Sun's hair. Mr. Monroe smiled. Oh. I found the servants in charge of cleaning Yang Zigu's and Guyu Holy Sun's houses every day. I found them among the trash they cleaned. Mr. Monroe smiled. That's great. Yan Chuan smiled. What are you going to do? Mo Yushi asked curiously. Where's the betrothal gift that Yang Zigu left behind? Yan Chuan asked. Mo Yushi did not like the betrothal gift, but she still took it. There were 36 immortal stones in the betrothal gift, and they emitted a faint mist. Yan Chuan reached out and took out a fiery red immortal stone. This is a fire-type immortal stone. Mo Yushi asked in confusion. Yan Chuan once again took out a strand of Yang Zigu and Guyu Holy Sun's hair. He also took out the blood of Yang Zigu's elder brother that he had collected in Northern Mo Hall. With a wave of his hand, his hair and blood quickly fused into one, turning into a fiery red liquid. Staring at the red liquid, Yan Chuan's eyes narrowed. Boom! Yan Chuan's palm let out a thunderous roar. It came from the spring thunder of the thunderclouds in the blue sky. With the sound of spring thunder, all living things were born. Within the red liquid, there was an additional aura of life. With his other hand, he held the fire-type immortal stone and mixed the red liquid with it. Boom! With another thunderous roar, the two merged perfectly into one. Who? Above the fire-type immortal stone, the dense chi instantly condensed into a fire-type phoenix. Phoenix struggled bitterly, but she was unable to escape from the immortal stone. What is this? Mr. Monroe's expression changed. Refining souls into treasures? Mo Yushi's expression changed. That's right. For many Dharma treasures, as long as the soul of a specific demon beast is refined into them, their spirituality and power will increase greatly. The Immortal Stone is no exception. As long as the soul of a fire-type phoenix is refined into it, the Immortal Stone will carry the aura of a phoenix. When absorbing the primordial qi in the Immortal Stone, it will greatly benefit the user. Yan Chuan said with a smile. But, is this a soul? Wen Ruo frowned. Of course not. This is just the surface. From the surface, it looks like the soul of Yang Zigu's elder brother has been refined into it. Yan Chuan said with a smile. Mr. Monroe's expression changed. Then, he looked at Yan Chuan in surprise and said, "Ha ha ha, Hades Emperor's method is really ingenious. We have no evidence, so we can only take risks. I won't hide it from you, sir. Can you accompany us during this time?" Yan Chuan stared at Mr. Monroe and said. Mo Yushi's expression changed. She understood Yan Chuan's intention. Yan Chuan was preparing to set up a trap. He wanted Wen Ruo to accompany them to prevent Wen Ruo from leaking information. On the other hand, he wanted to force Wen Ruo to side with Yan Chuan. He wanted Wen Ruo to isolate the Dajiao's sacred ground. Chapter 828. Wen Ruo smiled bitterly and nodded. She gave some instructions to Mo Yushi. Everyone stepped out of the city lord mansion again. Yan Chuan, Mo Yushi, Wen Ruo, Jin Dayu, Qing Long, and the others flew towards the Great Bright Mountain. Great Bright Mountain, Jingyu Dojo. The #1 holy land in the world. Countless Great Bright Holy Land Xiuzha flew back and forth in all directions. Above their heads was the Great Bright Holy Land Merit Cloud Sea. Thousands of Dharma images with grand power pressed down. Everyone flew over and also attracted the attention of Xiuzha from all directions. Whoosh! Instantly, a figure blocked in front of everyone. A man in blue robes had a dark expression. Mo Yushi, you still dare to come out, the man in blue robes said coldly. Yushi greets Supreme Lan Yu. Regarding your son's death, Yushi deeply regrets. But there is another secret. If not for Yushi, you will know in a few days. Mo Yushi said. Ha ha ha, not you. Mo Yushi, you still want to quibble. Supreme Lan Yu said with a dark expression. Presumptuous, Supreme Lan Yu. The truth is not out yet. How can the great bright holy daughter allow you to slander her? Mr. Monroe instantly shouted. Wen Ruo, a little lower void realm, what right do you have to talk about me? Supreme Lan Yu said with a dark expression. This is the great bright holy land, not your Lan Yu sect, Mo Yushi said coldly. What about the great bright? What about the great bright? I also walked out of the great bright. Can my son die for no reason? Mo Yushi, I want you to pay with your life. Supreme Lan Yu said angrily. Supreme Lan Yu shouted angrily. Countless Xiuzha from all directions looked over. Other than Supreme Lan Yu, the strong people of the vassal sects also looked over with unfriendly faces. Just as everyone was glaring at Mo Yushi, a voice suddenly came from the back of the crowd. Ha, what about the Great Bright? Here in the Great Bright, these are the rules of the Great Bright. What? Could it be that someone wants to violate the rules of our Great Zhao? A pretty girl's voice was heard. Hearing this voice, almost everyone's expression changed. The crowd turned their gazes over. It was a woman in a red robe who slowly walked over. The woman was about 20 years old. She had an oval-shaped face and a pair of watery eyes. She looked very charming, but her entire temperament gave off a sense of experience. With a book in his hand, he walked over slowly, neither hurriedly nor slowly. A graceful, noble, and lofty aura was instantly emitted. Everyone's expression changed, and they immediately said respectfully, "Greetings, Miss Shengguan." Miss Shangguan. Shangguan Wan, Yan Chuan's expression suddenly changed as he looked at the woman. True monarch Lan Yu, the Wu clan's plaza is not to be noisy. Have you forgotten? Shangguan Wan'er smiled faintly. A trace of cold sweat emerged on true Lord Lan Yu's forehead, and he immediately nodded his head and said, I know my mistake. It's good that you know your wrongs. In the great Zhao Holy Lands, Zhang Sun is responsible for everything. Don't let the Holy Lord be disappointed in you. Shangguan Wan said indifferently. Yes, I will remember it in my heart. True Lord Lan Yu immediately said submissively. Yan Chuan narrowed his eyes and looked at Shangguan Wan'er in surprise. One must know that Lan Yu sect was one of the 5 major vassal sects, and true Lord Lan Yu was an upper void realm expert. At this moment, he was submissive to Shangguan Wan'er. Yushi greets Miss Shangguan. Mo Yushi said solemnly. Girl, what are you doing? Shangguan Wan'er immediately went forward and smiled. Does Miss Shangguan know about Yushi's matter? Mo Yushi frowned and asked. Who in the great Zhao Holy Lands doesn't know? But don't worry, with me here, no one will hurt you. Shangguan Wan'er suddenly smiled. Chapter 829. As long as I'm here, no one will hurt you. Everyone was shocked. Shangguan Wan'er wanted to protect Mo Yushi. With this protection, who would dare to touch her? Supreme Lan Yu's expression was ugly. She looked at Mo Yushi with resentment. Mo Yushi shook her head and said, Yushi is innocent. Miss Shangguan, please investigate. Innocent? I've already sent someone to check. Unfortunately, now. Shangguan Wan'er sighed slightly. Obviously, in the case of irrefutable evidence, it was impossible for them to use it, and there was no way for them to use it. Miss Shangguan, this time, I'm here to clear my name. I hope the Holy Master can give me a fair chance. Mo Yushi said sincerely. Ha, Mo Yushi, you want to disturb the Holy Master for your matter? An extremely disdainful voice came from the crowd. It was Yang Zigu. He had heard the news at some point and had also come to the crowd. Shangguan Wan'er frowned and looked at Yang Zigu. Her eyes flashed with a trace of displeasure. However, Yang Zigu's words seemed to have struck a chord in everyone's hearts. The Holy Master. The Holy Master will clear your name. Back then, Mo Yushi's father was a Dao Lord. Jingming didn't care much about the Dao Lord's death. You, a little saintess, want the Holy Master to make a move. No one was optimistic about Mo Yushi. What a fool's dream. Yushi, you want to see the Holy Master. Do you know that the Holy Master doesn't like you? Shangguan Wan'er frowned. The Holy Master doesn't like Mo Yushi? Instantly, Yang Zigu and Supreme Lan Yu's eyes lit up. Shangguan Wan'er was the Holy Master's mouth. If she said that the Holy Master didn't like Mo Yushi, then he definitely didn't like her. The Holy Master doesn't like Mo Yushi? Then it would be much easier to deal with Mo Yushi. Even if Shangguan Wan'er protected Mo Yushi, it would be useless. Everyone had their own plans. Mo Yushi frowned slightly. It was obvious that this was the first time she had heard of it. However, he still nodded and said, My father once gave me a token. He said that as long as I gave the token to the Holy Master would protect me. Mo Yushi handed over the token. Ha ha ha, Mo Yushi, are you lying to the Holy Master? You think the Holy Master will protect you just because of this stupid token? Yang Zigu sneered in disbelief. Of course, at this moment, no one believed that the command medallion was useful. Everyone present was an expert, so they could tell with a single glance that there was nothing special about this token. If this token was really useful, then the Holy Lord wouldn't have remained indifferent to the death of Mo Yushi's father. Just as she was waiting to see Mo Yushi make a fool of herself, Shangguan Wan'er became extremely serious. Shangguanwan put away the scroll in her hand and respectfully took the token with both hands. The faces of Yang Zigu and Supreme Lan Yu stiffened. Stupid token. If it was a stupid token, would Shangguanwan be so serious? Shangguanwan took the token and looked at it carefully. Then, her expression changed. Seeing Shangguanwan's expression, everyone's heart jumped. What kind of token was that? Was it really that important? Shangguanwan looked at the token and took a deep breath. Then, she looked at Mo Yushi and said, Yushi, don't worry. Although the Holy Master doesn't like you, you are still the saintess of the Great Zhao. I will try my best to persuade the Holy Master to give you a chance. Thank you, Lady Shangguan. Mo Yushi's face lit up with joy. However, the people around couldn't believe it. Was this a joke? How busy was the Holy Master? Why would he come out for Mo Yushi? Supreme Lan Yu, Yang Zigu and the others looked at the token in disbelief. Shangguanwan still didn't think it was enough. She said to the subordinates behind her, inform the Great Zhao's sacred ground that those above true monarch are to wait outside the Wu clan's main hall. The Holy Master may summon them at any time. Yes. The subordinates said respectfully. Supreme Lan Yu was at a loss. What did Shangguanwan's order mean? That meant that the Holy Master would definitely come out. Definitely come out. How was that possible? How could an ordinary token make the Holy Master come out? Everyone here stared at Shangguanwan's token. They wanted to engrave this token in their hearts so that they wouldn't accidentally offend it one day without knowing what happened. Chapter 830. Jingming, the most powerful person in the world. Only others waited for her, not for her. Shangguanwan's order was spread in all directions. All the true monarchs outside received the news and headed towards the Great Bright Mountain and the Wu clan's main hall. Shangguanwan put away the order and looked at Mo Yushi. Yushi, do you need my help to clear your name? No, I've already invited Mr. Monroe and Yen Chuan. As long as the Holy Lord allows us to enter the Great Zhao Mountain together, it will be enough. Mo Yushi shook her head. Shangguanwan looked at Wen Ruo and then at Yen Chuan. Her eyes lit up. This is the Yen Chuan who wrote The 9 Hardships of the Common People, created the painting of misery and suffering with Mr. Monroe, and the statue of the sorrowful tearful goddess. I've heard a lot about you. Shangguanwan asked curiously. Miss Shangguan, you're too kind. Yen Chuan was just lucky. Yen Chuan smiled. Lucky? Ha, I've seen your calligraphy. It's even in the hands of the Holy Lord. The Holy Lord praised your calligraphy. Shangguanwan laughed. Calligraphy? The calligraphy at the Heavenly Bestowal Conference? In Jingming's hands? Ha ha ha, that calligraphy was completely dependent on Mr. Monroe's painting. It's nothing. Yen Chuan shook his head. You're too kind. My painting was completely dependent on your calligraphy. Wen Ruo shook her head. You don't need to be modest, said Shangguanwan. Wan admires Emperor Yan's talent. The Great Jin Dynasty's Great Collapse Plan. Ha! Now the whole world is warning against it. Just a few spirit stones were enough to destroy a mid-level sect. It's unprecedented in this world. The Great Collapse Plan. Yen Chuan was surprised. One had to know that this plan was extremely secretive. Not many people knew about it. Only a few factory guards knew about it, and they only found out about it after the incident. Shangguanwan knew about it too. You flatter me. Yen Chuan shook his head. Shangguanwan smiled and said, the Holy Lord also wishes to meet the young geniuses. Wan is looking forward to this opportunity. After Shangguanwan finished speaking, she turned around and walked back. Obviously, he had gone to see Jing and I. There was a moment of silence on the square. Supreme Lan Yu and the others all looked gloomily at Mo Yushi. Yang Zigu frowned and stepped forward. Yushi, what do you mean by redress? Could there be other murderers? Mo Yushi smiled faintly and ignored him. Many people were watching. Yang Zigu's face stiffened, and at the same time, a trace of anger flashed in his eyes. Swish! Swish! One figure after another flew over and landed on the square. In the great Zhao sacred ground, perfected monarchs flew over one after another. All of them looked at Mo Yushi curiously. In the blink of an eye, there were already 100 perfected monarchs on the square. All of them had restrained their aura and looked very dignified. Perfected monarchs had the same status as Saintess and Holy Sun. They were below Tao monarchs and above enlightened masters. All of the perfected monarchs arrived and stood outside the main hall, waiting for Jing Ni's summons. The 100 perfected monarchs all had serious expressions. At the same time, they distanced themselves from Mo Yushi and the 5 sect masters of the vassal sections. Jing and I did not like to form cliques. Therefore, the 100 perfected monarchs did not want to be involved in this karma. Yan Chuan, Wen Ruo, Mo Yushi and the others stood together and looked at the main hall. There was a plaque above the main hall that wrote, Wu Clan. Wu Clan Main Hall. Do you know where it came from? Yan Chuan asked Mo Yushi curiously. Mo Yushi looked at the main hall, thought for a while and shook her head. This main hall was originally called Great Zhao Hall. It was later changed to Wu Clan Main Hall. Chapter 831. Oh. The Great Zhao Palace? It was changed later. When? Yan Chuan was confused. It should have started when Shengguanwan came. Mo Yushi frowned. When Shengguanwan came? Yan Chuan was confused. Yes, at that time, the Great Zhao Holy Ground was not the #1 sect in the world. The Holy Master trusted Tao Lords Yu Yu and Mao Ri the most until one day, Shengguanwan suddenly appeared. No one knew where she came from. That day, Shengguanwan and the Holy Master spent a night alone. That night, the Holy Master's strength suddenly skyrocketed, and his aura spread out in all directions. No, it spread to the entire world. The 5 great divine lands were all filled with the Holy Master's aura. At that time, the Holy Master's strength reached the peak, and he was invincible in the world. Mo Yushi recalled. Invincible in the world? His aura covered the entire world. Yan Chuan was shocked. Yes, and the Holy Master's personality also changed a little. He had an unprecedented domineering aura. It's similar to the aura you gave off during the morning assembly. Mo Yushi frowned. The aura of an emperor? Yan Chuan was confused. Yes, at that time, Shengguanwan became the Holy Master's most trusted aide. Even Yu Yu and Mao Ri were not as favored as Shengguanwan Mo Yushi recalled. Right, I remember that you can see through people's cultivation. What's Shengguanwan's cultivation? Mo Yushi asked curiously. I can't see it. Yan Chuan frowned. You can't see it? Mo Yushi was shocked. Yan Chuan nodded and fell silent. There were only 2 possibilities for Yan Chuan to be unable to see through someone's cultivation. One was that there was a technique to hide one's cultivation, and the other was that the person's cultivation surpassed the highest level of cultivation in Yan Chuan's previous life. Everyone waited outside the hall. Mohina Dojin, Tao Lord Yu Yu, and Guyu Holy Sun all appeared in the plaza and looked at Mo Yushi. Everyone waited patiently. Half a day later, Shengguanwan appeared at the gate of the Wu clan's main hall again. The Sacred Lord has ordered that all true monarchs and above enter the Wu clan's main hall. Shengguanwan shouted. Yes. The true monarchs replied respectfully. With Dao monarch Maori and Dao monarch Yu leading the way, they slowly stepped into the Wu clan's main hall. Mo Shi and the others were waiting. When the group of true monarchs entered the palace, many of the true monarchs were surprised. When they looked at Mo Shi again, their expressions changed a lot. Really? Did that token really attract the attention of the sacred leader? After all the true lords had entered the palace, Shangguan looked at the leaders of the 5 subordinate sections. Everyone, Shangguan said to the 5 sect masters, the main reason why the Holy Master is hosting this meeting is to prove the innocence of your sons and Holy Maiden Yushi. You may enter the hall. Yes. The 5 nodded in response. The Saint Lord had come. The 5 of them stepped into the hall. Yang Zigu stood outside the hall and was still in disbelief. Yushi, what token is that? Why did the sacred leader come out when he received the order? Yang Zigu said with a hint of worry. Mo Yushi naturally ignored him. Yang Zigu asked for a snub and his face became gloomier. He turned and looked at Yan Chuan with a hint of hatred in his eyes. It was as if Mo Yushi ignored him because of Yan Chuan. The sacred leader summons Mo Yushi, Yan Chuan and Meng Wenrua to enter the hall. Shangguan shouted. Yan Chuan, Mo Yushi and Wenrua nodded. They followed Shangguan into the Wu clan's main hall. When the 3 of them entered the main hall, they immediately felt a pressure from the sky. It was as if they were being watched by the heavens, which made them feel solemn. Chapter 832. Step by step, they entered the main hall. The main hall was divided into 3 stages. The first stage was filled with perfected cultivators, Holy Son, and saintesses. The one leading them was Gu Yu Holy Son, who was looking at Yan Chuan and the other 2 with a gloomy face. The second stage was filled with Dao Lord Yu, Mohina Dojin, and the sect masters of the 5 subordinate sections. They were all upper void realm experts. The third stage was filled with a huge dragon throne. On the dragon throne, there was a woman who looked to be around 40 years old. She was graceful and elegant, and her eyes were filled with great wisdom. She placed her hands on the armrests of the dragon throne and quietly watched the people who had entered the palace. The lady was wearing a luxurious yellow robe. She looked down at everyone as if she was looking down on them. She exuded a trace of Emperor's qi. Yan Chuan frowned slightly. Emperor's qi. Why did Jingming have the Emperor's qi? Shangguan walked in front of the 3 and bowed respectfully to the lady on the dragon throne. Sacred Lord, Mo Yushi, Yan Chuan, and Wenrua are here. Shangguan said respectfully. Jingming nodded. Shangguan stepped onto the second stage and stood beside Mohina Dojin. Everyone in the main hall looked at the 3 people in the middle of the hall. Disciple Mo Yushi greets the Sacred Lord. Dajin Yan Chuan greets the Sacred Lord. Meng Wenrua greets the Sacred Lord. The 3 of them greeted Jingming with different etiquette. Mo Yushi knelt down, while Wenrua and Yan Chuan remained standing. Jingming. The person in front of them was the most powerful person in the world. Yan Chuan's eyes flashed with anticipation. Mo Yushi. Jingming suddenly asked from the dragon throne. Yes. Mo Yushi replied respectfully. Wan has told me about you. She said that you want to prove your innocence. You want me to uphold justice for you? Jingming said calmly. Yes, please uphold justice for me. I'll be grateful. Mo Yushi knelt down. Jingming looked at Mo Yushi, a complicated look flashed across his eyes. Perfected Lord Lan Yu suddenly stepped forward and said respectfully, Sacred Lord, the evidence is conclusive. Mo Yushi killed our son, Sacred Lord, please punish him. The sect leaders of the vassal sects also wanted to say something. Do I need you to teach me? Jingming said indifferently. True Lord Lan Yu's expression changed and he immediately said, "Dare not, I misspoke." The other 4 vassal sect leaders immediately swallowed the words that were on the tip of their tongues. "Mou Shi," Jing Ming said indifferently. "Disciple, since you want me to uphold justice for you, then let's begin." Jing Ming said indifferently. "Yes, I have invited Yan Chuan to help me prove my innocence. Please allow it." Mou Shi said respectfully. "Allowed." Jing Ming answered. Getting permission, Yan Chuan stepped forward and gently helped Mou Shi up. Mou Shi was slightly worried. But seeing Yan Chuan's gaze, she still got up in the end. Yan Chuan helped Mou Shi up and looked at Jing Ming. "I've long heard of Sacred Lord Jing's great name." Yan Chuan defended Mou Shi this time. "If there's any disrespect, Sacred Lord Jing will be magnanimous." Yan Chuan said. "N." Jing Ming answered. "I'm sure everyone has heard about the incident that day. Yan Chuan won't repeat it." Next, Yan Chuan will analyze the case and ask the relevant people. During this period, I hope everyone can restrain themselves and not be too impulsive. Yan Chuan looked at Mohina Dojin. Mohina Dojin narrowed his eyes. But he did not open his mouth. Jing Ming nodded, no interruptions without asking. "Yes." Everyone in the hall answered at the same time. "Thank you, Sacred Lord Jing." Yan Chuan smiled slightly. Mohina Dojin suddenly felt something was amiss and raised his brows. Chapter 833. Jing Yu nodded, "Do not interrupt without asking." "Yes." Everyone in the palace responded in unison. "Thank you, Holy Lord Jing." Yan Chuan smiled. Mohina Dojin suddenly felt that something was amiss and raised his eyebrows. Yan Chuan wanted this order. He wanted Mohina Dojin to shut up. Then, Yan Chuan suddenly looked at Guyu Holy Sun. "Guyu Holy Sun, please step forward. Yan Chuan has something to ask." Yan Chuan looked at Guyu Holy Sun. Everyone in the palace looked at Guyu Holy Sun. Guyu Holy Sun raised his eyebrows, but he still stepped forward. He looked at Yan Chuan with a cold gaze. "Yan Chuan, what do you want to ask?" Guyu Holy Sun cooperated. Guyu Holy Sun must be deeply affected by the Northern Mo Palace massacre, right? Yan Chuan smiled. "That's right. 3 of my younger brothers and 4 of my younger sisters died in the Northern Mo Palace massacre. They are the people closest to me. I must avenge them." Guyu Holy Sun looked at Mou Shi with a gloomy expression. "Well said. Avenge your loved ones. Only then can their souls rest in peace." Yan Chuan immediately added. Guyu Holy Sun, I've seen some information. Mohina Dojin has 9 sons. You are the closest to the 7 who died. So what? You are the eldest. Rumor has it that Tao Lord Black Sun gave all of you cultivation resources in the past. His 7 dead sisters-in-law gave all of them to you in the beginning to help you cultivate. He hoped that you would become strong enough to protect his 7 sisters-in-law. What a close sibling relationship. Yan Chuan laughed. Guyu Holy Sun clenched his fists. He was clearly touched by what had happened in the past. Rumor has it that during one of your travels, you encountered a strong demon. The ancient moon's sacred child was on the brink of death, and it was your 4th sister who used her delicate body to block the fatal blow for you. In exchange, you, as the elder brother, had an epiphany of life and death. You became strong, but your 4th sister was left with an eternal illness. Guyu Holy Sun thought of the past. His heart pounded and his eyes became bloodshot. Rumor has it that you suffered from chi deviation during one of your cultivation. You needed a 10,000-year-old ice lotus to cure your inner demons. Your 3rd brother went to the great snow mountain of the northern divine continent and knelt down to beg countless demons. He was humiliated and even had an ugly tattoo on his face. Only then did he beg for the 10,000-year-old ice lotus to cure your inner demons. Although you flattened the great snow mountain for your third brother, the humiliation he suffered could never be erased. It even became his inner demons, making it difficult for him to improve his cultivation. Yan Chuan stepped closer. Guyu Holy Sun clenched his fists. His eyes were bloodshot. Yan Chuan, what do you want to say? Guyu Holy Sun's face darkened. He was extremely uneasy. What Yan Chuan said was the truth. One could easily find out if they asked around in the great Zhao Holy Sun. This was the eternal pain in Guyu Holy Sun's heart. What do I want to say? Guyu Holy Sun, can't you see what I want to say? Your 7 brothers and sisters gave you their resources. They did not hesitate to lose their lives for you. They did not hesitate to throw away their dignity for you. What did they do for you? Deep brotherly love. This was only one reason. More importantly, they hoped that you, as their big brother, could protect them. Did you do it? Yan Chuan stepped forward. Guyu Holy Sun unconsciously took a step back. They did this for you. There are many more. I won't list them. But what about you? You watched them die. What did you do? Did you do nothing? Yan Chuan asked. That's why I want to take revenge for them. Guyu Holy Sun shouted. Revenge? Do you really want to take revenge? Do you know why they did this? Their corpses were collected by Mohina Dojin. You should have seen it. Did you feel it when you saw these corpses? Yan Chuan shouted. Chapter 834. Feel it. Guyu Holy Sun's eyes were red. Feel your 4th sister's cry when she blocked the demon's fatal attack for you. Feel your 4th sister's determination when she sacrificed herself for you. Feel your 3rd brother's humiliation when he was humiliated. Feel your 3rd brother's tears when he was humiliated when you were tattooed. You can't feel it because when you became the most important person in the great Zhao Holy Land, you turned their hope into despair once again. Why did they die? Killed? Of their own accord? Do you know? I think you know, and so do they. But in this moment, they couldn't get any help from you. They couldn't get any sympathy from you. They couldn't get any help from you. They couldn't get any sympathy from you. They couldn't get any help from you. But you cooperated with them. You never thought of helping them out of their misery. Yan Chuan questioned. No, I couldn't help them. I wasn't there. I wasn't by their side. Guyu Holy Sun's eyes were slightly moist. You weren't by their side. Are you not here now? You might know the result. But now, do you want to help them get out of that situation or continue to cooperate with them? Are they willing to be killed or commit suicide? Do you think you would be willing to do that? What about them? You never thought about them. Their endless hope is just a sacrifice for your growth. Yan Chuan said with a venomous tone. Shut up, shut up. Guyu Holy Sun's eyes were moist as he roared. In the main hall, the group of Supremes didn't speak. Mohina Dojin was also secretly anxious. Mohina Dojin could see that Guyu Holy Sun's emotions had been manipulated by Yan Chuan. He was controlled by Yan Chuan. Mohina Dojin was secretly anxious. But he didn't dare to move. Jing Ting had already ordered him not to interfere. Shut up. Ha ha ha, Guyu Holy Sun, are you deceiving yourself? This is a fact that everyone knows in their hearts. You're the only one who pretends not to know. The lives and dignity of your younger siblings mean nothing to you. They struggled bitterly and were forced to compromise. However, you only added salt to their wounds after they compromised. Yan Chuan continued to stimulate Guyu Holy Sun's emotions. Guyu Holy Sun tried to suppress his emotions, but the more he tried to suppress them, the more violent they became. When he could no longer suppress them, Guyu Holy Sun's emotions would explode like never before. Don't you want revenge? I know that you were in the central divine continent, and I saw you at the divine sect's sacred ground, but that can't be an excuse for you to escape. You just came back, and you heard everything from others. Do you know what exactly happened that day? Do you know how your sister-in-law died? Yan Chuan asked in a deep voice. Guyu Holy Sun's eyes were red as he stared at Yan Chuan. In order to suppress the anger in his heart, Guyu Holy Sun didn't say anything. He just stared at him. Many people think that it was Mo Yushi, but I want to tell you that it wasn't. Yan Chuan said in a deep voice. Yan Chuan looked at Jing Ting and said, Holy Lord Jing, I want to summon Yang Zigu again. He's an important person. Mohina Dojin's expression changed, and the uneasiness in his heart grew stronger. Permitted. Following Jing Ting's order, Yang Zigu was quickly summoned into the main hall. Yang Zigu didn't know what was going on. He entered the main hall in a daze. He looked at the true sovereigns around him, then at the people standing in the middle of the hall. His eyes revealed a trace of doubt, and he finally looked to the north of the hall. Chapter 835. Yang Zigu greets the Holy Lord. Yang Zigu said respectfully. Cooperate with Yan Chuan's questioning. Jing Ming said indifferently. Yes. Yang Zhijiu nodded with a hint of confusion. Yang Zigu looked at Yan Chuan arrogantly, then looked at Mo Yushi, as if he was determined to win. Yang Zigu, where were you during the bloody incident at Northern Mo Hall? Yan Chuan asked with a smile. I was in my own hall. Yang Zigu said in a low voice. Are you sure? You weren't by Mohina Dojin's side at that time? Yan Chuan continued to ask. Yan Chuan, why do you care where I was? I wasn't even at the scene of the bloody incident at Northern Mo Hall. You still want to frame me? You've chosen the wrong target. Yang Zigu said disdainfully. Yan Chuan smiled and didn't take it to heart. Instead, he turned to Guyu Holy Sun and said, Guyu Holy Sun, I don't know who you're guessing the real culprit in your heart. However, I want to tell you who the real culprit is. He is in this hall right now. A cold smile appeared at the corner of Dao Monarch Morning Sun's mouth. Mohina Dojin had done it flawlessly, and he was even the victim. Without any evidence, pointing at him would be futile, and he would even be accused of toying with the Holy Lord. The real culprit is him, Yang Zigu. Yan Chuan suddenly pointed at Yang Zigu. Mohina Dojin's expression suddenly changed, and he looked at Yan Chuan in shock. Yan Chuan was accusing Yang Zigu. How could this be? The whole thing was planned by Mohina Dojin, but how could Yan Chuan blame Yang Zigu? Guyu Holy Sun's eyelids twitched, and a look of surprise flashed across his face. All the perfected lords and Dao lords in the hall were confused. Nonsense. Yan Chuan, you're slandering me. You're framing me. I'll kill you. Yang Zigu was instantly enraged. Although he knew the result, it wasn't his doing at all. Impudent. You dare to cause trouble in front of Saint Master Jing? Yan Chuan glared at him. Yang Zigu, stop. Guyu Holy Sun shouted. He's slandering me. Guyu, he's slandering me. Father, he's slandering me. Yang Zigu said anxiously. Slander? Haha, whether it's slander or not, I have proof. Yan Chuan suddenly laughed. Proof? Yang Zigu was surprised. Proof? Wasn't it flawless? How could there be proof? What proof? Guyu Holy Sun said coldly. After being mocked by Yan Chuan, Guyu Holy Sun's insistence began to waver. Yang Zigu, let me ask you. When your father barged into Northern Mo Hall, except for Mo Yushi, everyone else was lying in a pool of blood. When did they die? Was it the moment they barged into the hall? Yan Chuan said. Humph, Yan Chuan, don't even think about framing me. My father wasn't the only one who entered. Many perfected lords were there. The people of Northern Mo Hall have already been dead for 2 hours. During this time, only Mo Yushi was in the hall. No one else was there. Yang Zigu shouted. 2 hours? Are you sure? Yan Chuan smiled. At least 2 hours. Everyone knows. Yang Zigu said coldly. This is the proof. Guyu Holy Son, of your 7 siblings, the second and sixth are the Holy Son and Saintess, right? Yan Chuan said with a smile. Guyu Holy Son's face darkened. He immediately figured it out. Yang Zigu's reaction was a little slower, but after thinking for a while, he opened his mouth. He looked surprised. A loophole. A loophole had appeared. The Holy Son and Saintess have their own Dharma idols of virtue. The moment they die, their Dharma idols above the cloud of virtue will collapse. These 2 Dharma idols follow Mohina Dojin's Dharma idols. Mohina Dojin should be able to sense it immediately. The 5 sect leaders of the vassal sects are too far away from their respective sects to sense the cloud of virtue. However, Mohina Dojin is right here, but he went to Northern Mo Hall 2 hours later. Why? Yan Chuan shouted coldly. Why? Everyone was stunned. That's right, there was a time difference here. Yang Zigu took a step back from Yan Chuan's shout. Guyu Holy Son frowned. Mohina Dojin's expression changed slightly. He wanted to say something, but he couldn't. That's why I asked if you were by Mohina Dojin's side at that time. Everyone knows that Mohina Dojin's favorite son is you, Yang Zigu. At that time, you must have begged Mohina Dojin not to tell anyone. Mohina Dojin saw that his sons and daughters were dead, so he delayed it for 2 hours to protect you. Yan Chuan shouted. Mohina Dojin frowned. The 5 vassal sect leaders also frowned. This was Yan Chuan's nonsense. Mohina Dojin was with the 5 sect leaders at that time. How could it be Yang Zigu? No one believed Yan Chuan, but Jing Ting was not allowed to speak. They could only watch patiently. Nonsense. Nonsense. You're lying. I wasn't by my father's side. I wasn't there at that time. Yang Zigu shouted. You know very well whether you were there or not. Don't tell me, tell Guyu Holy Son. Let's see if he believes you. Yan Chuan said with a smile. Guyu Holy Son frowned. He only had a little doubt about Yan Chuan's words. Guyu Holy Son trusted Mohina Dojin more. Guyu Holy Son, I know you're suspicious. What good will this do to Yang Zigu? Why would Yang Zigu do this? Why don't I suspect Mohina Dojin? Let me tell you. It's because Yang Zigu wants to force Mo Yushi to marry him. You should know that he came to ask Mo Yushi for her hand in marriage, right? I think Yang Zigu must have begged Mohina Dojin, but Mohina Dojin refused. That's why Yang Zigu wants to take the risk and sacrifice his 7 brothers to force Mo Yushi. At the same time, he wants to force Mohina Dojin to go with the flow. If Mohina Dojin agrees, it shouldn't be difficult to make this happen. After all, Mo Yushi is only a holy maiden. You should know the power of a Tao Lord. They probably didn't tell you the truth. Yan Chuan said with a faint smile. Guyu Holy Son sucked in a deep breath. Guyu Holy Son knew that his father wanted Yang Zigu and Mo Yushi to marry, but there was no need for it to be so tragic. All his father had to do was beg the Holy Lord, and he would agree. But now? Could it be that Yang Zigu really did it himself? Guyu Holy Son's suspicions increased. But it was still far from enough to overturn his initial understanding. Yan Chuan also knew that it was still far from enough. Hence, he continued to weave a lie that would reveal the truth. You're lying, Yan Chuan. Mo Yushi killed them. It has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with me. Yang Zigu said anxiously. It has nothing to do with you. You know. Otherwise, how do you explain the evidence just now? Don't worry, Yang Zigu. There are so many perfected lords here. How could I accuse you? Also, the evidence I have is not limited to just this. When I show you the evidence one by one, there's no point in trying to deny it. Yan Chuan shouted. Show me, show me. Yang Zigu said anxiously. Mohina Dojin's face darkened. There was more evidence. How could it be? Mohina Dojin was already surprised by the time difference. How could there be more? Wasn't it flawless? Chapter 836. Wu Clan's main hall. All the experts were looking at the scene. From Yan Chuan's analysis, they suddenly realized that this seemingly conclusive case wasn't as simple as it seemed. The 5 vassal sect leaders sneered. The 5 of them didn't believe Yan Chuan, because Mohina Dojin was with them that day. Yan Chuan was talking nonsense. Only Mohina Dojin felt that something was wrong. He was the clearest about his own matters. He clenched his fists tightly, afraid that his 2 sons wouldn't be able to withstand Yan Chuan's pace. Dao Lord Yu looked at Mohina Dojin doubtfully. Shangguan looked at Yan Chuan, and her eyes lit up slightly. Jing Ying's expression didn't change as she watched quietly. Take it, take it. Yang Zigu said anxiously. Looking at the anxious Yang Zigu and the bewildered Guyu Holy Son, Yan Chuan smiled. All right, since you want to hear it, then I'll say it. I won't say the version of Mo Yushi's murder. Let me tell you another version. Everyone can treat it as a story. Yan Chuan said with a smile. Everyone stared at Yan Chuan. Say it, let's see what kind of story you can come up with. Yang Zigu said with red eyes. Speaking of which, there was a person called Yang Zigu who took a fancy to Mo Yushi. However, Mo Yushi didn't care about him at all. Yang Zigu was resentful and begged his father, Mohina Dojin. However, Mohina Dojin had other plans and didn't agree. Yang Zigu was indignant and had evil thoughts. He threatened his 7 brothers to frame Mo Yushi and make her lose her position as the Holy Maiden. At that time, the lonely and helpless Mo Yushi wouldn't be able to escape from Yang Zigu's evil clutches. Yan Chuan said loudly. Mo Yushi showed a wronged expression. You're lying. Yang Zigu shouted angrily. I'm not finished yet. Wait for me to finish before you refute. How about it? Yan Chuan said with a smile. The surrounding supremes frowned and looked at Yang Zigu. Yang Zigu suppressed his anger and looked coldly at Yan Chuan. Yan Chuan smiled and continued, Yang Zigu wanted to frame Mo Yushi. Therefore, he needed a sure-win scheme that would make Mo Yushi unable to defend herself and make Mo Yushi unable to turn back. Therefore, when the 5 great sects came, Yang Zigu told Mohina Dojin to arrange for Mo Yushi to bring the children of the experts to the exchange and create a massacre at North Mo Hall. The 5 sect masters' sons were all gone. Mohina Dojin sent all his children to the Great Zhao's sacred ground. Of course, in order to create an alibi, only Yang Zigu refused to go and did not go. The case continued. North Mo Hall was sealed and outsiders were not allowed to enter. Under Yang Zigu's coercion, several elder brothers drugged the banquet's wine and killed everyone except Mo Yushi. In the end, they committed suicide one after another in pain. At this point, Yang Zigu's scheme succeeded. Mohina Dojin heard the news and wanted to go immediately. However, Yang Zigu suddenly stopped him and begged his father to ignore it. Mohina Dojin was concerned about Yang Zigu and had no choice but to accept the truth. He cooperated with this poisonous scorpion who forced his elder brothers to commit suicide to cover up everything, Yan Chuan explained. In the main hall, the experts exchanged glances with each other in surprise. How could there be such a vicious person in the world? Was this for real? Mohina Dojin's face was gloomy. Guyu Holy Sun clenched his fists. Yan Chuan's version was not much different from Mohina Dojin's version. However, when he thought of his younger brothers and sisters committing suicide one after another, Guyu Holy Sun could not control himself. You're lying. I didn't. Who would be willing to commit suicide? How could I force them? Yang Zigu shouted. Chapter 837. Suicide doesn't necessarily mean death. Yan Chuan suddenly laughed. Yang Zigu's eyes flashed with panic. You 9 brothers all have the blood of the phoenix in your veins, right? The Phoenix clan has the ability to be reborn. I won't talk about that. Back then, 7 of your brothers died by letting their blood out. Can letting their blood out also cause their souls to disappear? Yan Chuan laughed. Yan Chuan's actions caused everyone in the hall to tremble. Even the 5 sect masters were deep in thought. Yang Zigu was about to refute, but Yan Chuan spoke again. Of course, you can say that they don't have the ability to be reborn. But what I want to say is that although they committed suicide and their bodies died, their souls were not destroyed. Obviously, they can still split their bodies into 2. They just have to wait for their souls to be reborn in another body. No, they just have to wait for their souls to return to their bodies. Am I right? Yan Chuan laughed. Yang Zigu's heart skipped a beat, and he took a step back. The 7 of them had their bodies and souls split into 2. Watching their bodies die bit by bit, Yang Zigu, you definitely can't understand this kind of sadness. Guyu Holy Sun, as an elder brother, do you want to see this moment? Yan Chuan looked at Guyu Holy Sun and asked. Guyu Holy Sun's face was terrifyingly gloomy. His eyes were bloodshot, and his fists were clenched so tightly that they made cracking sounds. What an elder brother, what a younger brother, what a father. I think Mohina Dojin was willing to cooperate with Yang Zigu because he saw this. His children can still be reborn, so he turned a blind eye to it. Yan Chuan laughed. Yan Chuan, you slandered me. I'll fight it out with you. Yang Zigu roared and was about to rush forward. Pa! Guyu Holy Sun stopped Yang Zigu instantly. She knew that this was not a place for her to be impudent. Guyu, get lost. Yang Zigu shouted. Shut up. Guyu Holy Sun shouted. After he finished drinking, Guyu Holy Sun looked at Yan Chuan and said coldly, Ha ha ha, Yan Chuan, what you said was very interesting. However, you neglected one point. My 7 sisters-in-law have a very bad relationship with Yang Zigu. Why would they voluntarily commit suicide just because Yang Zigu forced Mo Yushi to marry him? Why? Guyu Saint Child, can't you see what I've said? Are these 7 people still your brothers and sisters? Do you really think of them as your family? You know best what they are thinking. In this world, who would be able to make them give up their lives? At this moment, they might not necessarily die, but who do you think would be able to make them give up their lives willingly? Yan Chuan took a step forward and asked. Guyu Holy Sun's expression froze. It's you, Guyu Holy Sun. Your 4th sister is willing to sacrifice her life for you. Your 3rd brother is willing to sacrifice his dignity for you. They are proud to have you as their big brother. They have sacrificed too much for you. Are they willing to sacrifice themselves for you? Willingly. How willingly would they do that depends on what Yang Zigu says to them and how he uses you to threaten them. You haven't been home for so long. Is it difficult for Yang Zigu to find an excuse to force them? At least it's not difficult for me. Yan Chuan smiled. Guyu Holy Sun's emotions had been disturbed by Yan Chuan from the start. At this moment, he was in a mess. For me? Why? Guyu Holy Sun trusted Yan Chuan more and more. Because everything Yan Chuan said was true. He's lying. He's spouting nonsense. I didn't. Yang Zigu shouted. Guyu Holy Sun turned his head and stared at Yang Zigu with red eyes. I didn't. Yang Zigu said anxiously. Guyu Holy Sun gritted his teeth and forced himself to turn his head away. He did not look at Yang Zigu's face. He was afraid that he would not be able to control himself. Of course, the most important reason why Guyu Holy Sun was able to control his emotions was that his 7 siblings could still be revived. Yan Chuan stared at the 2 of them quarreling. I didn't refine them. I didn't. Yang Zigu was anxious and panicked. You didn't? Then how do you explain this? How do you explain this? This is third brother's soul. This is third brother's soul. You refined their souls. You must have refined their souls. I didn't refine them. I didn't refine their souls. I didn't. The evidence is clear. Why are you still quibbling? This is third brother's soul. You refined third brother's soul. Guyu Holy Sun's aura surged. His eyes were red. He grabbed Yang Zigu's collar as if he was going to punch him. I didn't. I didn't. Their souls have nothing to do with me. Yang Zigu roared helplessly. He insisted on his last stand. At this moment, Yan Chuan stepped forward and intervened in the quarrel. If you didn't refine them, then where are the souls of your 7 brothers? I didn't refine them. Their souls are all in the Yin spirit nourishing pool of Father's morning palace. I really didn't. Yang Zigu, who was out of his wits, shouted when Yan Chuan interrupted. However, halfway through, Yang Zigu suddenly woke up with a start. Not only Yang Zigu, but Guyu Holy Sun also woke up with a start. Wow! There was an uproar in the main hall. At this moment, everyone looked at Yang Zigu and Guyu Holy Sun in surprise. The 7 souls were still there. They were still alive. Yan Chuan revealed a victorious smile. Mo Yushi grabbed Yan Chuan's sleeve and trembled. If they weren't in the main hall of the Wu clan, she would have jumped up and cheered. Once the 7 souls appeared, all the lies would be exposed. Mo Yushi was innocent in broad daylight. Mr. Monroe revealed an excited smile and looked at Yan Chuan with admiration. The 5 sect masters were all stunned. Then, they became angry. Their sons were all dead, but Mohina Dojin's 7 children were still alive? Did Mohina Dojin do it on purpose? The 5 sect masters looked at Mohina Dojin with hatred. Mohina Dojin's body went soft and he almost lost his balance. His tense body seemed to deflate in an instant. It was extremely bitter. The main hall was in an uproar. The case was almost revealed. Mo Yushi didn't do it. Mo Yushi was wronged. Shangguan Wan revealed a trace of excitement. She looked at Yan Chuan and Mo Yushi. Then, she turned to look at the main hall, Jing Ming. Jing Ming's eyes flashed and he revealed a faint smile. However, Jing Ming wasn't looking at Mo Yushi. Instead, he was looking at Yan Chuan, who was in control of the situation during the defense. His control of the atmosphere and emotions had reached the extreme. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.